boy Darrick Valentine.
What's going on?
He just got back from Olympia this last weekend. It was a good Olympia. I think, as we were talking before this show, we started the show. I think the most comments that I've heard so far is that Hadi should have placed better. He got third. I thought he was placed appropriately, although I think that he was definitely tighter. But he had some shit going on in his shoulders, man. He needs to stop that site injection crap on his shoulders. He doesn't need that. You can clearly see it. And that's, I think it held him back a little bit because you can't have Mr. Olympia with like shit like that going on in his shoulders.
Yeah, I agree. I would have to agree with that.
But barring that, he pretty much, I mean, every year I go to this last couple years at least that he's been there, he's the one that impresses me. He's the one that I'm like, damn. And he's like going to be 50 pretty soon, right? Something like that?
Yeah, he's pushing his age. He's getting a little bit older, man. He's getting older, but he was good, though.
Well, guys like him and Dexter and stuff, when he was competing, it's apparent that the age envelope is being pushed. That you can be, like the top bodybuilders in the world are definitely over 30.
Well, I mean, come on. Everybody knows, man. You don't really get seasoned in this sport until you hit your 30s, man. I mean, you really don't really. I mean, even if you like people like Nick Walker and Hunter Labrada, I mean, with them being younger, man, it's unfortunate their bodies are just. I think they can't get any bigger, and they I don't think they can downsize to a more streamlined physique. They have to keep it in this. They have to keep it in the same pocket in which they are. But unfortunately, as they start getting older, they're not gonna be able to maintain that. You know what I mean? It just is too much. And like I said, I agree. I would have to go with Arnold and with some of the other old heads and bodybuilders saying, as far as classic men's, is really it's really the category that's really, this should be the mainstay. It should be the staple in the sport because, look at people like Rolly. Rolly came in. He didn't, I saw him in the pump-up room on the video in the pump-up room, man. His stomach was just sticking out like a big-ass gut. I mean, that's just not in a very healthy, appealing-looking look on bodybuilders, man. Just not very aesthetic.
And and I think, from what I understood, he came in smaller this year. That they were trying to play that game like Ramy did last year to come out with a win, and they were hoping that he would do something similar. I think his team, and it just didn't work out. He loses his wow factor. He needs to look freaky to place well at the Olympia. So at least his particular physique. But honestly, man, like I think Arnold's full of shit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I just think he's full of shit, man. He's like Arnold's. Some of his. I mean, I get it. He's correct in the sense that the classic physique is going to be popular, and it's a prettier version, and it's healthier to a certain degree. I mean, you just never know. But in terms of like what people are doing, but I think it's definitely a more mainstream-ish looking division to the sport that you could, because you can't put like an open guy up there on like the cover of Forbes or something. Like that's probably not going to go over well for some people. But maybe we'll get to a day in this world where people stop judging each other by their appearances, and we could like fucking put bodybuilders and people of color and people of anything, fucking anywhere we want, right?
You know what? Look, bodybuilding, to be honest with you, and my, just like when you were younger, man, we wanted to be bigger, we wanted to be freaky looking, things like that. But at the end of the day, I mean, you look at like somebody like Chris Bumstead, you could actually put him on the cover of Forbes in a cutoff suit with a tie, talking about all his investments. You can do that, and you know what? Most of young guys in that age demographic, or even older guys, that's more attainable and that's more realistic. You look at Ramy and him. It looks like WWE. It looks like it's a novelty. It looks like it's not attainable by everybody. It doesn't. It's not very
I actually think I've seen Brandon. I still think Brandon was the best guy up there. I thought I had him winning slightly by a nose after prejudging. They tightened up Ramy for the finals, and so I thought Ramy looked better. But if you do shot for shot, Brandon won more shots, in my opinion, than Ramy did. Ramy won some shots, that's for sure, and so did Hadi. But I don't know. I think you could put a guy like Brandon on the cover of Forbes. I think you can get him in a suit. He looks fucking slick in a suit. He looks good. He looks like he's professional. I think all that. I think you could do that. But you're right. Like some of these bigger guys, it'd be a little hard pressed, right? It'd be a little. to take seriously.
Look at so you remember the movies, like some of the early movies Arnold made back in like the 70s and shit, where he would walk down the street and everybody's like, wow, because not everybody, and I'm just telling my daughter this, that I said, isn't it crazy? Because I was giving her a life lesson about how how to stay out of the frays, because she's 12, she has little friends, they have these they have the little squabbles or whatever as children or whatever. But the thing is, I told her how to stay out the fray. I said, be the friend that keeps all other friends on their square. And I always, whatever. I said, that makes you stand out more. Your personality, your character, your integrity, all those things make you stand out more. So let's flip that to like bodybuilding. The integrity and the morality and the normalization of open bodybuilding is just not going to be realistic. It's not going to be. It will never be real.
Why do you think that is?
It'll never be attainable in the six. It's always going to look as being novelty, because we stand out like sore thumbs. So it's kind of like it's always going to be the oddity. It's always going to be the freak show type thing.
So in order to not, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. In order to not be a novelty, what would we have to be as a sport?
I think when Sean Roden won the Olympia, and I think that when Phil Heath won his first maybe couple of Olympias, Open's class was actually taking a turn for the more aesthetic, symmetrical. You can still be. Think about it, man. I mean, look. I'm always gonna go back to Flex Wheeler, someone who personified the ultimate template for how all bodybuilders should look. That right there that's purely genetics. But the thing is, as far as like just being appealing to the masses, someone you put like somebody like Big Ramy. Big Ramy's popular where he's from. He's popular in his region. He's popular in the sport of bodybuilding in our small demographic of people that are fans of bodybuilding. Heidi's the same way. He's popular in his country. He's popular in the demographic. Brandon Curry. Only people in bodybuilding know who Brandon is. Chris is probably popular as hell in Canada as far as like what he does, as far as like classic physique, and he's making a lot of money off of it right there. I just think that if you ever want to make the turn, as far as like, especially like Nick Walker, he'll make a lot of money. Hunter Labrada, he's already got a silver spoon in his mouth based on who his dad is. But a lot of bodybuilders, man, are pushing the envelope to be these mass monsters. And once again, it does tie into genetics. It does tie into aesthetics and symmetry and things like that. How are you going to make it? Like, look at somebody like Sean. Sean, he's only 5'4", man. He's only 187 pounds. Derek Lunsford came in at 212. I mean, that's a genetically bigger bodybuilder, whatever. But you look at these guys, man, and especially these younger guys coming up. They're pushing the envelope for not. You know what I'm saying? Because not all going to get the big contracts. Not all going to make a whole bunch of money. So ultimately, it's kind of like, you ever seen that meme where you see a whole bunch of people walking each other off the cliff?
Yeah.
Everybody just kind of falling off the cliff. And
like lemmings.
I'm not saying they're doing that. I'm just saying that
it's a good metaphor for everyone's following who's in front. They think, and the people who think that bodybuilding's only about these getting super huge. I know a lot of guys. I have clients that are like this who just say, "Oh, I just want to be as huge, as big as I possibly can." And they mention people like Nick Walker. I want to be like Nick Walker. I'm like, you don't want to be like Nick Walker. I understand you want the success that he's had, but you don't really want to be like that because he's got nowhere to go with his physique. I think he's got a great physique. There's nothing wrong with his physique other than his varicose veins. And he'll do well in bodybuilding. But you're right. Like, he's capping out. If he goes more, his physique's gonna probably metamorphosize into something probably kind of ugly.
You saw what happened to Dallas McCarver.
Yeah,
I mean, Dallas McCarver, he was a balloon like figure, but if he would have had more years of maturation with that size, he probably would have.
If he had taken it slower, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And how can you tell the younger generation coming into bodybuilding, how do you take it slower? When once again we live in a society that's instant, so everybody wants the size now. So I think IFBB and the NPC need to really take a hard look at how, because think about it, like you want the mass monsters, and I'm not saying, but once again it becomes an oddity, it becomes the freak show. Rolly comes on the stage. Rolly's never had an aesthetically pleasing physique. Yeah, he's never had a Mr. Olympia physique to me.
No,
he's never. You look at guys. You look at all the rest of the guys, like somebody like Patrick Moore coming up. Good clean physique. You You know, I mean, these guys, these masters. I'm telling you, man.
Oh, I got a chance to sit with Patrick a little bit before he got on stage. I was sad that he didn't do a little bit better because I'm looking at him and he's got such a pretty physique, man. It is like it's just his time is coming. Yeah, it's just not here yet. But man, oh man, I'm like, dude, he's. I was like, this is beautiful.
I think I follow him on IG, man, and I'm like looking at his physique, and you can tell his physique is on that level where he's not full blown yet.
Not yet.
He's not. But he's big.
He has a strange thing that happens to his physique. So when you're looking at him up front in person in 3D, it looks great. I mean, it's fantastic. But for some reason, when I saw him on stage and he comes out and does a front double bicep, he has long arms he has long arms and legs. It looks like in these certain shots. So it's deceiving because he really is bigger than he looks. He's bigger than he looks, and usually it's the reverse. Usually people look bigger, but he's actually bigger than he looks on stage. So like,
what's my guy, man? Max Charles.
Max is a big fucker too.
He's a big, but when he gets on stage, his physique doesn't pop.
It's because
like, oh my god.
I think part of it is because he's so impressive as a bodybuilder. Like if you were to sit there and watch him train, you'd be like, fuck, this guy's going to win everything that he gets into. But then he gets on stage and he hits a shot and nothing moves around. No. Nothing pops, nothing moves, nothing snaps. And you really do have to have a little bit of that in the sport. Because, you know, when you're up on stage and you hit like a most muscular, you hit like a front double and the muscles could jump a little bit. It's really fucking impressive to judges like myself.
I think Darrick's physique did that this year.
Yeah.
I think because I've been knowing Darrick.
There was some criticisms about because he wasn't as tight as fucking Sean Clarita.
But Sean just I'm more in.
Don't get me wrong.
Stereotypical, aesthetically pleasing physique. His physique is like a little compact, little army figure. You know what I mean? It's like
that's a good way to put it.
He has a miniature. He has a miniature Flex Wheeler physique.
He really does, except he's not as full in the chest. If he just had full chest, wider clavicles, he'd be perfect. But it doesn't take perfection to win. You just have to be good and better than everybody else. And he has been the last couple of years. But
Darrick's still young, man. And I think that like I met him when he was a middleweight, man, back because he's from Indiana, right? So when I met him as a middleweight, he's not, like you said, not very tall. But when I walked backstage and actually met him as a middleweight, I was like, dude, you have everything. You have everything. You're complete, bro. I mean, once you pack on size, you're gonna be okay on a pro as a pro. I said you're gonna be okay as a pro. I didn't say anything about winning Mr. Olympia or anything like that. I just said he just has a complete, body. He has a complete physique.
Well, I think Darrick Lunsford is one of those people that from the very top, for the first time he stepped on the Olympia stage, judges like myself and other judges who are more important than me definitely have expected big things from him because we can clearly see the potential, the genetic potential, and how pretty and how good his physique really is. He just didn't come in that tight shape. This year, working with Hani, it absolutely helped him out. He was still up. I still say that he can be better. I'm looking at him going, he looked so improved. He was tighter, but he can be better. And if he does,
I agree.
Yeah, because I think here's what I think, and of course, it's easy to say this, especially in the mood and the atmosphere after the Olympia from George Peterson. But I really think George Peterson was going to bring something special. I saw some stuff.
Man, I'm so sad about that, man.
I am too, man.
What's so messed up about it though, bro, is that I remember George before he turned pro. And I was like, I remember him before he turned pro. I remember seeing him backstage at some shows before he turned pro. You know what I mean? And I was like, I remember that guy. So it's like, when you see a guy, man, it's just so unfortunate, man. It's so unfortunate.
So I found out a couple other things from some people behind the scenes. And again, none of this is official, but this is what I found out from people who knew his family and people of that nature, was that, one, he was, found... I think it was Monday or whatever. He was found a couple days right before I got there at that week at Olympia last week, face down in his in his hotel room. He was in the morning. He was I guess his coach and everybody were trying to get a hold of him. They couldn't get a hold of him, and then they found him in his room, face down, with blood coming out of his mouth. I guess he was already dead. He'd already had an aneurysm or something. But I found out that his father died the same way. I was told,
Really?
almost the same age. I think his father was a little younger. So it seems so. There's probably some kind of genetic, because it just seemed like he didn't seem like that dude that was gonna, like that this would happen to, right? But you never know, man. None of us are guaranteed any time on this planet. So I mean, it's so sad. I actually wrote him an email. Like, I wrote him an email because I needed closure, man. Because I like this dude. I had him on both my podcasts, my other podcasts and stuff. And the first time I met him, I remember telling him, bro, why have I not fucking talked to you before? You are one of the coolest dudes. He has a very similar, very positive nature about him. He and I, we believed in much of the same things about life. And so I felt like I found like my long lost brother. And I was like, fuck, dude. And so I was really looking forward to seeing him at this year's Olympia, because I knew this last year he looked big. He looked like he had put on some good muscle, and wouldn't it be funny? It wouldn't be funny, but wouldn't it be ironic if he would have won? if he would have changed the results that much that he could have won.
I think he would have, though, man. Be honest.
Hey, man, you never know. I just saw a little video. Somebody did a little montage for for about, just something to out of respect for him. I think it was a close friend of his or something, or his trainer. And they were talking, and they were clipping some of his conversations that I guess he had recorded on his YouTube channel or something. And he said, hey man, it was eerie to hear him say this was recorded a few days before he died. He said, I feel something changing within me, man. Something's changing. I feel like something's changing. I'm like, oh man. That's just fucking eerie to me. Like, he said, I feel like something great is about to happen to me, and something's changing on the inside. And I'm like, oh man, that's the Lord calling you home, brother.
Right. You got your text message. You got your whole text message. Oh my God, that's what's so sad about it though, man, is that a lot of Lee Haney, I think a few other people spoke out about all the deaths and stuff like that in bodybuilding. And I just think that I've always appreciated, Dorian Yates and the size and stuff like that. Because here's the thing, you got to appreciate the work it takes, and the fortitude and the resolve and the resiliency. I can use all kind of other words, but it just takes a lot to do this fucking sport, man. And people don't understand that. You got to appreciate it now, but I think that IFBB needs to take a hard look at how they want to be portrayed, because once again, I don't mind Big Ramy being Mr. Olympia. He's a nice guy, doesn't live in this country. You know what I'm saying? And he got I heard he's getting like a whole square named after him where he's from or whatever. You probably met him. Everybody said he's a nice guy. Yeah, nothing wrong with Ramy. So you never, the bodybuilding is a world international sport. So whoever takes the crown takes the crown. But it's kind of like, even his physique is not aesthetically pleasing.
Not even close.
So what are we actually doing? Like Sean Roden winning the Olympia, Brandon Curry winning the Olympia. I remember who dubbed Brandon Curry, what they call him? What was his nickname? The Prodigy.
The Prodigy, yeah.
Because remember when he was a little bit smaller, man, he had every piece that you need.
Yeah, exactly. He's just not quite as oversized in the legs as Ramy and some of his other competitors are. And that is what the judges at the Olympia really, really kind of favor. It's really Steve, I think. But it could be more than that. But I think Steve Weinberger definitely likes guys with bigger legs. And so you're going to see that in the judging, because, these are the judges that judge these shows, and that's what they favor. And there's nothing wrong with favoring that stuff. It's a judge's prerogative to look at a physique and go, this is what I like in it. I do the same thing. I just don't, when I view a physique, I don't need the legs to be oversized. Although they are, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just don't need them to be oversized for me to look at it. When I look at Ramy's physique, I look at Brandon Curry. When I see him just straight on front double bicep, Brandon Curry looks better.
Of course. I looked at the pics of all the comparison shots.
And in my opinion, you got to have front double bicep, rear double bicep. If you can't win those two shots, I don't think, in my opinion, as a judge, you don't deserve to win the Mr. Olympia. You got to win those two shots. If you can't win at least one of those, you got to win those shots convincingly.
Yeah, because I mean, but that's that. So let's throw Hottie back in the mix.
Okay.
He was just more conditioned than both of them.
He's
more conditioned.
Yeah.
He's more conditioned, and I think so like it's like so you go to classic physique, classic men's, the conditioning's spot on. Conditioning spot on. If I'm judging, I'm sitting there looking at.
Do you know why? You know why it is, right? This is my guess, because just knowing competitors, because they're all trying to squeeze in at the top of that class. So they oversize and then they squeeze down, and that's a successful tactic. It works, but what it means is that those weight class, the divisions that have weight limits, you're going to find that those are going to be the ones where you have most of the competitors in shape, because they're all trying to hit that.
But in that competition, though,
it is. You're right. Yes,
that's the beauty of competition. Like, damn, who worked harder? Bust their ass.
And I have no doubt that all those guys up there busted their ass, but at the same time, it's like, this is not a fair fucking sport. Okay,
it's not, man.
It's not about who works harder. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. It's about who looks better in the eyes of those 9 or 12 judges, and that shit isn't fair. It's like
it's never gonna be fair, man.
No, that's why
you know what. You know what's funny? You know what's crazy is that as you look down the list of all the people that came in, like overall, though, those are the top guys in the sport, man. I mean, just bottom line, those guys that won shows this year, those guys that, whatever. It's not about being who got the most fans on Instagram. It's not about who got the biggest supplement contract. These motherfuckers had to work out. They had to diet and train, do cardio, pose, and get on stage, and you guys are the best. So, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, man, when it comes to, like, the Mr. Olympia, man, I mean, you look at Ronnie. I looked at a picture, man. Somebody posted a picture of Ronnie from the back when he was, at the peak of his game. And Ronnie, honestly, dude, was just fucking unreal.
Yeah, he was.
He was just. I'm sorry, bro. Like, you're never gonna see a physique.
Well,
like
he had a couple advantages. This is my personal assessment of Ronnie's career. He had a couple of advantages and a couple of disadvantages. The disadvantage was that he really, really was natural until he was a seasoned pro. He wasn't winning anything.
93,
right.
I met him in 92, and we were the same fucking weight. He was 227, and I was 228. It was the odd dude in Chicago Pro. That's what I told when I did a podcast last year, and Mike Francois was on there. I said, dude, in 1992, I walked past you backstage, and I remember seeing his fucking quads. I was like, dude, I need to go do some more squats. Damn it, right? But I remember seeing Ronnie, not to interrupt your assessment, but Ronnie, you can tell, just had a natural big dude physique.
Yeah.
Like, he would just, like, like big ass traps, big old chest, huge shoulders and arms, big legs. Like, you could tell all the powerlifting that he did and all the football lifting that he did really paid off. And I mean, dude, we were the same fucking weight. He had just turned pro. Remember, he had just won the world amateur.
The Team Universe or whatever it was.
Yeah.
The worlds, right?
World amateur. Yeah,
world amateur.
He was 227.
Yeah, he was all natural. They test that event.
Yes.
So
and he had a natural like.
Well, I remember looking at his weight, going 227. He was about 227, I think, and then. A couple of years he competes as a pro and he's getting last place. He's just not. And I remember looking at, and I used to see him in the magazines. I remember looking at, I was managing a vitamin store at the time in the 90s. This is like early 90s. And I remember thinking to myself, why doesn't this dude quit? I'm like, why is he competing? Like he's not even close.
Right.
And then within like a couple, once he started using some gear, man, that motherfucker blew up. It was game over.
It's when he won that Toronto Pro Show. That's when they gave him a Harley. That's when they used to give good prizes back then.
Yeah, so I think.
Was that 94? Was that 94?
I want to say it was probably 94, 95. Could have been
95. It was like a couple years because he was at the bottom of the
list. Because I think he competed for 2 years and he was just last 15th. When you're placing 15th or 16th, if it says 15th, it's last. Okay, so
yeah. I mean, but I looked at he's And you never gonna see a physique like that. I'm sorry. You just never
No,
gonna
see, I remember seeing him. I remember the first time I met him in Seattle. He was guest posing. It was in the mid, I think it was like 2004, 3, something like that. Anyways, he was guest posing at the World Cup, and I remember I went to the restroom. I was competing. I just decided to jump in the show. I was competing, and he comes in the restroom, and I recognize him right away. Of course, it's Ronnie Coleman, and I said hi to him, and I almost cracked up laughing because his voice is so like he's this big fucking dude. He had these spandex on and big oversized sweatshirt, and he's huge. He's 300 and something pounds, right? And his quads, you can see the fucking veins in his quads through his spandex. Like that's, I'm like, holy shit! I was like, dude, his quads were big. I was so impressed. And but such a nice dude too, really nice fella. But I just remember being this guy's on a whole nother order of bigness. It's like a whole nother.
Even when Dorian had a level of thickness and size, but Dorian didn't have a good. He'd have a pretty physique. He just big.
He just big.
He was just big as shit. But Ronnie was just
the only
aesthetics.
The only other guy that I can say that impressed me about the level of thickness and muscle that I ever saw was when I saw actually Mike Francois, his lower body. Holy shit. Probably the best.
It was unreal, man. It was unreal.
His hamstrings could, oh fuck, man. I had a special, I really liked him. And I remember, this is one of the few pros who, he got his pro card, won the Nationals, he won his first pro show, and he won the Arnold, and then he gets a perforated colon and he has to stop. So they really expected him to go on his first year or two and win the Mr. Olympia. Like I think the Weeders were kind of like, oh, the Great White Hope is back. You know, like
because he had, but you know what, you had to give it to Mike though.
He was good. He was fucking real good, dude. He was. I really liked him, but him, Tom Prince was another guy who I thought was just not as pretty of a physique, but just so much muscle just packed onto that his frame.
Yeah. You know what? I met Tom in '96 in New York, and I remember after I had won my class. I was like, man, what do I do, man, overall, man? What do I got to do? This is the Eastern USA. So I was like, what do I got to do, man? What do I got to do? And he was like, just stay big, man. You're the heavyweight. You're bigger than everybody else, man. Just stay big. And I remember standing next to him, and I'm thinking, and you know, I always tell you this. When I'm standing next to people, I never think I'm big.
Right.
I never think I'm a big person. But you got to remember, this is '96. I was 235.
And remember, back in '96, they didn't have a super. There was no super class.
I was 230. I was 230. I was 232 when I did that.
So you were in the biggest class.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it is, you know, you got to realize this is like right off the cusp of like Lee Haney not being Mr. Olympia anymore, but he was only 240. I remember Jim Maney pulled me to the side after I won. He was like, he said, dude, you were a few pounds heavier than Flex Luthor when he won the USA's. He's only 227. You got potential, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like thinking to myself, I'm about to hit the big time, right? And I'm thinking, I'm standing next to Tom Prince, and then I'm looking at his fucking quads, right?
You're like, what the fuck did this dude do?
Like, what the fuck is he doing? What am I doing incorrect? Because like, man, you remember back in the 90s, man, you had bodybuilders, man, that just weren't, like Tom Prince, Mike Francois, Ronnie Coleman, Chris Cormier, all those guys. They had good, clean physiques, man. They had good, clean physiques.
I've often thought it was because in the night, and I remember because that was my jam, the 90s, the bodybuilding. Like I was in my 20s, I was hardcore, I was doing everything everybody else was doing, and I remember thinking, what the fuck am I not doing? Because these motherfuckers are growing like a motherfucker, and it had a lot to do with, I think, we in the 90s, and I don't know about you, but I know I focused so much more on training. Today we focus all on the drugs, and I don't get me wrong, there's a place for everything, but it was really about training hard. Man, I would go into me and my buddies. My workout partner, we would train twice a day, do doubles, remember 2 a day? Yeah. We did doubles, man. Daily doubles, baby, daily doubles. We did that. I mean, that was like normal. Like it was about the training. I remember I couldn't guarantee that I would always have gear. Like I just couldn't. So
you had to train and eat.
Yeah, I had to make sure that I was.
Look, tell everybody. Look, so. You remember when we first met, the very first phone call we had. I remember I was married. Cassidy was a baby.
You just had her.
And you asked me a question. You said, so how much you weighing? And I was like, 317 or something like that. And you like, what are you taking? I like, man, dude, I got a wife and a baby, man. I'm taking anything. I'm not taking. No, I wasn't.
I remember this. I remember this.
And it was because I focus, and that's why, when guys look at me now and I was like, you 51, because I always focus on the training part of things. Everything else was like, you wasn't always a guarantee you were always going to have everything that you needed.
I like to put it like this because you're really hitting on it. Training is your best drug you'll ever have.
It's always going to be the number one catalyst in any physique, career.
If you can train effectively for your physique, you will make progress.
Dude, I just look. So it's a young lady at my gym, right? She's a little Asian young lady. She's about 5'1". Her physique, man, I told her, you're gonna get your pro card if you compete next year. You've never competed, but I guarantee you, if you get because what I've done for her, man, as a trainer.
Who is she?
Coach.
Who you work out with her? You train?
No. She just she's done a couple workouts with me, man. But she's 5'1", man. Has the completest physique.
Shit.
The completest physique.
Let's get this girl a pro card.
Never competed. Never done anything like that. So what I've done for her is I altered her workouts because I noticed that her volume was the exercises she was doing. The volume wasn't contained within the reps and the sets that she was doing. She wasn't being specific on how she's training, right? So I took her workout routine and changed it and morphed it to something that was more catered and more conducive to like a competitor's like workout, right?
Right.
And I asked her how the workout's going, and so she always feel like she got more in the tank. I said, but that's the thing, though.
You don't have to run it dry.
Yeah. Bust your ass to the gym, do this workout, and walk away. Just go home, go eat your meals, and just chill out. And I just said this shit last week to her. I said, because the training aspect is always going to be the most important part when having a complete physique.
That's right.
You're always going to have a complete physique based on how you train, not based on how you what kind of shit you take.
And you're absolutely correct because training is the stimulus. So if you're not stimulating your body to respond in the right way, it's going to respond in the way that you tell it to. And if you're telling it to respond a certain way and it's not ideal or optimal, then you're going to get less than ideal or less than optimal results. No matter what drugs you're using, you'll just amplify. So all the drugs do is put a magnifying glass on the results that you're already getting. So if you're getting nothing from your training, and you take drugs, you'll get nothing from your drugs and your training. You won't get much except for water retention and maybe some bad health. Or some other.
Hey man, dude came up to me. He said, man, how is it, man? He said, I was on your. He said, I wasn't trolling or anything like that, but I was just curious because, yeah, I know you just won, and I know you just got back from competing or whatever, but I'm just still astounded about the fact that you're 51 years old, dude, and you look better than all these 20. Everybody that's in here, dude. Every time you walk in the gym, you're like the biggest one here. Every single time you walk in the gym, I said, I appreciate that. He said, but I looked at your picture, man. You posted a picture when you were 41 and 51. It was no change. I said, because let me tell you, I'm gonna be honest with you, because it's all mine. This isn't going anywhere. This is my frame. I could not work out for 7 years, pick up weights, and then do a show. I mean that. I said, so imagine. I said, I'm not comparing myself to Michael Jordan or anything like that, but it's all the hard work I put in for years.
Yeah. Well,
this is mine.
Well, I have similar conversations. People tell me something similar, and I'm like, look, the reason why I can do the things I do and get away with it is because I put 37 years of fucking hard work, training, and diet into this. I've never stopped, never given myself any breaks, and I've tried to do the smartest things possible. Now, and sometimes what that looks like and feels like is uncomfortable. It looks like I didn't go out to eat with my buddies and go drinking and go party and go. That's what it looked like for many, many decades. So what does that give me the latitude to do today? I can go drinking, I can go party, I can have bullshit food, and I still am able to look good, look youthful, look young, be healthy. And trust me, my brother once told me, and I relate this to this too, because he once told me, I remember when I was like 30, and he's like, hey, when are you gonna have kids, Tad? I'm like, because he had just had his second son. And he's like, I'm like, well, like I'm still doing my thing, man. I'm like, me and my wife, we're not ready for that yet. We're gonna wait. He's like, well, there's never a good time to have kids, and he's right about that. There's never a good time to have kids. It's fucking always fucked up, but it's a great thing, no matter what. It's always a wonderful process, in my opinion. And he said, well, when you get to be 50 or 60, Tad, you're still taking care of your daughter or your children if you have any. He goes, and I'm going to, me and Kelly, him and his wife, he said, we're going to be already have our kids raised and shit. I said, Ty, then we'll be able to go out and travel and party and do things we want to do. I said, dude, I'm doing that shit now, bro, when I'm young. I said, do you think I wasted my time? Right. I said, no. I want to do that shit when my dick works, when I'm as attractive as I possibly could be.
I'm 55 years old and no shit work no more. And I'm like, well, I'm all done. Yeah, you are done.
Yeah, you are done.
Sit on the fucking porch and watch the kids and yell at the kids when they drive past you. I mean, at the end of the day, like this, you look at. And this is why I always appreciate, rest in peace, the guy who got, really kind of mentored me in bodybuilding, a guy named Walt Tyndall, man.
Who's he?
Walt, he won like Mr. America, he did like, I remember AAU when the AAU was like, he did shows back in the day. And this dude, man, 28-inch waist, big old chest, big old shoulders. Like and having and I think if I had to pick an era in which I visually and got an opportunity to see bodybuilding in its golden age, man. Like we grew up at a time to where it's like watching football for the first time when you're a little kid. Like when you're a little kid, you're playing. You're not even your dad's watching football. You're not paying attention to shit. And then it's that one time when you stop on a Sunday and you actually sit there and watch a game. And then you grow an appreciation for how the football game is. Same with bodybuilding. It's like we opened up the first magazine. The first magazine, I'll never forget this shit, man. The first magazine that I saw, the first magazine I purchased was Muscular Development. Albert Beckles was on the cover, and he was doing his freaky peeked out bicep on the front of the cover. And I remember telling my mother, I want to look like this, right? And so we got an opportunity to look at bodybuilders that were more aesthetically pleasing. They trained their asses off. Not saying bodybuilders now don't train their asses off. It's just that they trained. You saw them training. Everything they focused in the magazines back in the day was always showing them training in the magazines. Let me show you my chest pyramid. Let me show you my leg pyramid. And it was all about doing reps and sets, man. Actually building your house.
Yeah, I think you're right. Part of it is because they didn't really talk about the drugs in the magazines. Like today, we talk about everything. Everything. So what I think now this is just my assessment. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm spot on with this. Most of the younger generation moving into the sport, into fitness, into bodybuilding, they focus on some of those topics because those are some of the things like the drugs and the gear and all that stuff. Those are some of the things that are a complete necessity when you get to the pro level to be able to compete with those people in that arena. I know, but it's stuff that we didn't really talk about, but in private circles in the 90s and the 80s, right?
True.
So what we ended up reading about in magazines and focusing on in interviews and in conversations was, because I remember having conversations with people, and the conversation was always, hey, when I would go up to see a show, I'm in college, right? Go up to see a show. I didn't know any of these people like I do today, and my friends would say, oh, ask him about the drugs, ask him what he's using. And I'm like, what? I just felt like that's a fucking personal goddamn question. Like I would never ask somebody that question, especially when not knowing them, just being a fan, walking up, getting an autograph and going, hey man, okay, so what drugs do you use? Like, fuck. like that's I don't know. That just to me seems a little, I've had people ask me that shit at like expos and I tell them, I'll tell you what I tell them. I tell them, what's your favorite sexual position with your wife?
Oh wow!
Because I'm like, that's
stops him to
like, you tell me that, I'll give you give me that personal information and tell me why you like that shit.
I've never, to be honest with you, and this is crazy, and this is probably you're gonna probably laugh at this shit. I've never had anybody ask me about what kind of stuff I take.
Oh really? Oh well.
And I think the main reason
they might be afraid.
I mean, I think
if I ask this dude, is he gonna punch me in the face?
I remember I'm selling one of my businesses, right, to a young lady, and she came by on Monday, and she was saying, I remember when I first met you, you look so serious, not mean, just like, it's kind of like how you look at things from different angles, you're trying to find the approach, I didn't.
She's trying to figure you out.
You. It was like, so you really have like this force field around you that no one would really probably ask me that question. You know what I mean? Because it's like they know I'm gonna either bite their head off, hit them in the throat, or I'm gonna get real philosophical on them and like throw it and do like like you said. What's you and your wife's favorite sexual position? Like I'm gonna throw some shit right back at them where they're gonna be like
what?
Oh damn, okay. Yeah,
so,
because what important information is that? Because like you said, I agree with you wholeheartedly. You said it perfectly. It's because when they interview guys back in the day about what they did, they always talked about their training. They never talked about anything else. And I think that what happens, what's going on in the sport now, is that you put the gear piece on the forefront to where like you got like young guys, man, it's so many young guys in my gym that walk around with these little shorts on and tank tops, and between each set they always flexing and posing and shit. None of them are big. None of them are big as shit. None of them are bigger than $1.50. But they're always posing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like one of those things that we become so. I think this is weird, man, because I think it's a psychological construct in which we live in, right? We've created. You see how Facebook is trying to create their Instagram is trying to create a kid's Instagram. Facebook is trying to limit the emotional attachment to social media because they understand the social experiment in which social media has been for people is that they find that a lot of teens are committing suicide, a lot more cyberbullying, a lot of things are going on. So I think what's happening, we've driven our young people to be ultra narcissistic to the degree to where all they see is themselves. They don't really see a lot of. Well,
you're absolutely you're right in it. So what I think here's what's going on. When you and I we were adults when social media came. You and I were like 40 when Facebook got popular, and so we and Instagram, all these things. We were already grown men with our character in place. But children are growing up using social media as a fun toy or as a fun entertainment, but it's teaching them something. It's teaching them something about themselves. And the problem is that it's inaccurate.
Yes.
It's not true. It's not, you're who you are. They're looking at other people, and there's this, man, we do this as human beings where we automatically compare and contrast. So when a girl goes out there and a young girl goes out, and I warn my daughter this shit, she goes out there. I said, you go look at these influencers, because she's very cognizant of the influencers. She wants to be like that. And I said, be careful. I said, what you see isn't really what you might get. I said, this is just a facade. I said, there's filters. They can do 20,000 takes to get one stupid 10-second video clip right. And real life doesn't work that way. Sometimes I got one motherfucking shot to give you.
You get one take.
I got one take to have a conversation with people sometimes, and sometimes it comes out good, and sometimes it don't come out so good. It's like right. But on Instagram, I could always make it come out good, right? And so it gives the facade of these people who live these perfect lives, who have these perfect responses to everything, and it really isn't like that. Like life isn't like that. You and I know this, right? We see through the bullshit, but children grow up and they go, oh, I want to be like that. I want to drive around the Lamborghini. That person doesn't even own that fucking car. They rent that car.
Rented a car, they have somebody, can they stand by?
Right. It's like, come on. And besides, even if you did, would you really? Because, I don't know, man. I'm of the persuasion that says, I love nice things. That's really great. But what do I got? What is it really costing me? What is it really costing me in my character, in my life? In my happiness with other people? What does it really cost me? There's more than the price. The price tag of a vehicle or a house or a nice thing is more than just the price that we pay for it in money.
And flip that. So here's a good one. Flip that to bodybuilding. Flip that to physique sports, right? In general, you look at it at like,
Oh, by the way, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you trimmed your beard, man. I liked it better with the.
No, this right here. I wanted to grow this all back together.
Oh, okay.
So I trimmed this down to let this catch up, so then all of it can be thick and full again.
I'm growing,
because hey man, I don't know. I sent you. I think I tagged you. Because they're doing the World World Master Pro in Pittsburgh in July.
Yeah. We're gonna do that one.
Gary posted it. Yeah, I should do that one.
You should. Right. I got more people do.
I've already got it marked down. That's what I'm going to do.
All right, good. So, let's kick some ass. I'll go to Pittsburgh for that.
So when a person asks me a question like, how was that even possible for you to get back on stage at 51 and you hadn't done it for a while? And I said, because, I said, if you remove ego as quickly as possible as you can participate in this sport, you'll be successful.
Well, that's like being our age, right? We're not married, go out there and start dating, right? Oh, so you're dating again at 51? Yeah, man. What's the problem with that? Like it's the same thing. It's like dating is very similar to bodybuilding in the sense that, okay, I don't look and feel as good as I did when I was 20 something.
Right.
But it's still a fun endeavor. Well, I think that a lot of people, what they question is that they don't see how they could possibly do that. And so they're looking for you for the answers for what's the secret that you had that enabled you to do that. And I would tell you that I remember that first conversation we had. And I remember, and I know your history, so you've done a good job of preserving yourself. You haven't done stupid things with your body like a lot of people do. They just don't take care of themselves. Like they don't sleep right. They acquire too much body fat. They just don't take care of themselves. And they're not active enough. But you've taken care of yourself. You've done good. And I don't think you don't have a lot of unhealthy things that you do in your life. Like you're not going out there doing drugs and fucking drinking all weekend and doing stupid shit like that.
Never have.
No, of course, and it shows.
I never scoff at anybody who does.
No. There's to each his own in this world. I'm not here to tell nobody what to do, but we live with the consequences of the things that we do.
And it goes back to what you said, though. You said, you think about somebody asked me a question a couple weeks ago. I said, just call me the tortoise.
That's right.
In the race. I said, call me the tortoise in the race. I said, because at the end of the day, I was the rabbit. I said there was a metamorphosis that happened there because of the fact that I was the rabbit at first. In my 20s, I was like, hey, I was bigger than everybody. You were not going to tell me shit about size. And then I hit my 30s, 300 pounds was like nothing, so you really couldn't tell me anything because I was like, I'm way bigger than you right now. But then you start to realize that, I got more years ahead of me
than behind me.
If I plan on doing this more, I gotta take a different approach, or I gotta start looking in the long term when it comes to working out and things like that. So and I'm gonna be honest with you, keep it 100. I told somebody something you told me years back, and you used to always say when you first got with me, I was 300 some pounds, but then the next year you were like, let's try to keep you under 300. And, it was attainable. We did that. I stayed under 300 for those next 2 or 3 years, right? But it was one of those things. Now, when you ask me to do cardio 4 times a week, I actually enjoy doing cardio 4 times a week. I actually like being actually leaner and bigger at the same time, which is one of those things where I always wanted that. I just didn't want to work toward that shit. I was like, it's easy because it's easier just to swell up and just be big. Right. But at the end of the day, someone asked me, I said, just call me the tortoise. I said, be the tortoise when it comes to this, man.
I've always that story, the tortoise and the hare, always resonated with me when I was a kid because I always felt like I was a tortoise. I wasn't the guy who was born with the best genetics or born with be the smartest kid. I mean, I was pretty smart and I have pretty decent genetics, but I wasn't born with the best. I had to work for everything I got. I think everybody feels kind of that way, but I remember feeling like a tortoise. Like no one's betting on me today to win this show. There's something in which is probably why, as a judge and even as a person just looking into, no matter what sport I'm watching, I tend to go towards those underdogs. I tend to look at them going, all right, I want this motherfucker to win. I want this mother because I feel like I was always
I commend anybody who shoots for the underdog, but. Like Rocky was probably Rocky's probably my top 25 of movies. The first Rocky.
The first Rocky. Yeah.
Rocky 2 and Rocky 3 were probably that. They should have stopped there.
They should have stopped at 2.
I think the Clubber Lang thing, because it showed
3 was good. Yeah, you're right. 3 was a good one.
Because he was already wealthy, successful. He got beat.
Who doesn't like Mr. T though?
But Rocky, the thing is, people call him an underdog. But the thing is, I appreciate about that type of underdog, it's the one that, like, if you think about it, Michael Jordan always had a chip on his shoulder, like he was the underdog. He always refers back to when he got cut from his basketball team, like he played with that chip, like that type.
Well, I think for some athletes, it infuses power in them.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the one like Rudy was a good movie. Rudy was a good movie.
If I want to cry, I watched that movie.
You telling all these little square nerd dudes that they gonna be superstars? No. Now you look at a movie like 10 with Bo Derek and Dudley Moore, like, no, dude, you never gonna get the 10, bro. and now because honestly, man, you know what? I'm reading this book now called Alpha, right? And it's
What's
talking
it
about the alpha males, and it's not talking about how to be an alpha male. It's just talking about how society has changed. We spoke on this some weeks back when we talked about from a survival perspective. Being the alpha male, that's kind of dissipated to the point to where it's morphed and changed into different things. Alpha is the one who's gonna open the door for the old lady. The alpha is the one who's gonna pick up something on the ground if a woman drops something. The alpha is gonna open up the car door. Alpha is gonna be respectful and man. That's an alpha male, right? So it's kind of like you look. I've always thought that if you're the best, you're the best. Period. If you're the best, you're the best. If you were born and you grew to 6'6" and you were a star basketball player, then you're walking in your truth. You're walking in your calling, right? Now the people that wasn't born 6'6", but you look at somebody like Allen Iverson.
I like
you think no, real talk. You think Allen Iverson was an alpha or a beta
when he was growing up?
Because he wasn't a beta growing up. He was a bona fide star in everything he did since he was at Little League football, playing football. He just wasn't the biggest person.
Right.
So he's not really considered an underdog because he's undersized.
No. I wouldn't consider that.
Doug Flutie. Is he a beta or alpha? Straight alpha.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But we see how the narrative is switched to where we always think the person who's the meek, the smallest, is always the underdog. No. It's not what is it? What is it? It's not the fight and the dog. It's the dog and the fight.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at underdogs, you look at, like, especially in bodybuilding. I always say, man, it's a gay couple in my gym, man, and they're actually getting ready for a natural show that's here in Indiana in November, and I'm always fist bumping it because I always think it takes courage to even think to get on stage in a fucking little bitty ass piece of cloth and oil yourself up and pose in front of people. It's the freakiest shit you can possibly do, right?
Yeah.
But you gotta have the fucking.
Well, aside from scrotum stretching.
So you really have to have the courage. So in essence, are there really underdogs in this world?
I guess from that perspective, maybe not, right?
Are there, even if you were the one that was born the poorest and all of a sudden you became successful, were you really an underdog?
That's a fucking really good insight. You're probably right. That's just a title or a definition or a description that we place on a narrative. It's really, we're defining our experiences in different ways, right? Like, so you can call someone an underdog or you don't, but are they really?
Are they really?
Not really.
Dudley Moore in 10, he got Bo Derek. If you watch the movie again, if you think about it, he didn't do anything outlandish to get her.
No.
He didn't do it. So is he really an underdog?
Not really. Probably, right?
You see what I'm saying? Like, so I think once again, I think that our whole existence is a psychological construct based on the narrative.
I feel a little differently whenever I watch my Cowboys play, except for recently they've won winning. But normally I feel like, what the fuck, man? We're underdogs.
but think about it though. Think about it. Are they really underdogs? Because every year you talk about the Dallas Cowboys about going to Super Bowl, no matter even if they're contenders or not.
That's just a fallacy of the industry. They shouldn't be doing that.
I know, but think about it though, Jerry.
And I love my Cowboys. I love my Cowboys.
I'm a Cowboys fan too. We both have that in common. I'm a Cowboys fan only because once again we were little kids. The only jacket you can get is Pittsburgh Steelers and
Dallas Cowboys. That's right.
And then it was always the one little kid that had a Denver Bronco, like had a jacket and stuff. But realistically, think about it like this, man. I'm straight up. You remember when Danica Patrick was when she joined NASCAR? No, was it NASCAR or Indy 5? She joined one of them. She was like, she wasn't the first female. She wasn't the first female to do this or whatever. But she was so small and petite and pretty and things like that, right? But really, if she really wasn't a contender, you know what I'm saying? She really wasn't like she wasn't gonna get up there and just like blow the sport away. I think that once again, there's always a controlled narrative that exists on everything that's put in front of us.
Yep.
Like think about Bubba Wallace. Okay, Bubba Wallace was the first African American to win a NASCAR race since 1963, right? But you remember that was a rain stoppage. That whole race was a rain stoppage. They had to stop because of the rain, and then they started.
That was the one in France, right? That was the race in France, right? No.
I don't know where. No, it wasn't in France. It wasn't in France. I think it was down in Talladega or something like that. It was one of the major motor places. And that was a rain stoppage, right? He won the race. Not that he didn't race hard or he didn't win it just flat out. But once again, there's a controlled narrative there because once again, look where we live in. We live in a social injustice times. We live in a George Floyd time. So anytime I get to spin a narrative based on people of color, I'm going to spin the narrative, not because these people aren't deserving of getting that light shined on them. It's just that, is it controlled or is it not controlled? Because once again, it's always going to be about perception. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just think about honestly, not to switch subject, but think about the white young lady who's been, they found her body. Remember, they can't find the boyfriend.
Oh yeah. Okay, so what?
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what happened with that.
Have you ever thought about this? Why do white women get national dues when they come up missing?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting conundrum.
Who is she? She wasn't like a senator's daughter. She wasn't a congressman's daughter. She wasn't a president's daughter.
I think here's what I think. I think it's because the people that contribute to the bottom line of those news stations and those people who are projecting that news, the people who they're beholden to, their advertisers, the people, or they're white mostly, and that story will resonate deeper with them than a story about a little black girl who might be abducted or who might be missing or somebody else of color who is. It's the same fucking story. It's just it doesn't resonate with those people. I don't think they're doing it to be racist, but it's completely fucking racist.
So think about what we were talking about. Let's go back to the underdog thing.
Okay.
So that controlled narrative about the underdog is always for what? It's always for who? Because think about it where we are. No matter how poor and how in debt you are, no how small, tall, big, whatever, skin color, you always have a fighting chance. But once again, let's take a closer look into our country. Our infrastructure is crumbling. Our debt ceiling is going to the roof. More people are making less. People are making less money on their jobs and can't afford to even have a working living. So once again, I only sell that narrative because I want you to perpetually keep in a mindset that there's always hope on the other end.
Well, I want
to keep that.
Yeah, when you the narrative is there to perpetuate itself, right? So like we have to. So the whoever's purporting the story, they have to do this in order to be able to perpetuate itself, right? So you got to give workers hope. If you want people to work for you, just work their asses off for you, you got to create a story that allows them to succeed, right? In this,
they want to know your story. So they can come work with you.
Well,
right. I agree with that.
And then the story that's been made is like, this is what you hear. And it comes out of a post-industrialized, the kind of this post-industrialization that after like probably 1900, when you get these messages. So you get these messages like, if you work real hard, good things happen. Put your nose to the grindstone, and all these kind of bullshit that we hear in our culture for years and years and years, and we take it on as a truth. Like, if you work hard, good things will happen. Well, you and I both know that's complete fucking bullshit. It could be true in some instances, but it could also be completely goddamn false. I know my mother and my stepfather, before he passed away a couple years ago, he worked his ass off his whole life and had zero to show for it at the end of his life. He owned his own business, he did all this, but just couldn't make it for various reasons. But the point is that it's not true. But it's what feeds the machine that allows workers to work their asses off for people who fucking don't deserve it.
So look, goes back to my question. Are there really truly underdogs?
Well, now that you put it that way, maybe not, huh?
Like real talk, it's really. I mean, like I said, the reason why I use
Well,
Allen Iverson because people don't realize Allen Iverson was a whole. You know, he could have played football. He got offered football scholarship to play football and play quarterback.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, dude, pull up.
He's a real athlete.
Videos. He was a fucking star in football. He said football was actually his favorite sport.
Oh,
but once again.
He sure made a run of in basketball.
Look at Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas was a small point guard. Look at
Spud Webb.
Spud Webb.
5'7".
So is he really an underdog? No one's really an underdog in our society. We just paint the picture because we always. And you know what?
But I love the story of the underdog. Maybe that's what I really like. I like the story of the underdog. I like it when nobody believes in this motherfucker except for me, because I can see the greatness within him, and I know that, and because deep down inside, Darrick, I think I already knew that there's no underdogs.
Right, it's facts. So look at it.
I love this, man.
Look at it like this. If you say to yourself. You say to yourself, the way the narrative has always been painted, it's like, say for instance, like for women have always been weaker and meek and all these things, right? Is that actually true? That's not really a true statement.
From a certain perspective,
women are stronger than us.
Well, you could make a case that says, if I go to the gym with any woman, I'm going to beat them. Unless you're fucking Miss Olympia and you're fucking crushing me on shit, which is even I can still outperform most of those lifts. So from a physical standpoint, no, it's not true.
Really? Because we can't have babies.
Well, no. I'm just talking about physical strength.
You said physical.
I'm talking about physical strength. You said they're stronger. No, they're stronger.
I mean internal.
Okay, yeah.
I mean internal.
They have a higher. So the biology is this. Yes, women have a higher pain tolerance in general. That's unique to each person. But in general, they do. Yes, absolutely, and they're supposed to because they bear children. And that shit's fucking painful. Okay, so I get that. So
it's second behind being burned alive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, fuck no. I don't burn. That's one of the worst.
Behind being burned alive, having childbirth is the second most excruciating pain on planet.
Okay, well, from that perspective, they got us beat because they actually
because we couldn't have no kids. If you left having kids,
dude, I can't even pull out a fucking splinter. It's
dude,
like fucking hurts.
If I stub my toe, I'm shut down.
You're like, hey, man, can't come into work today. My fucking toes.
Hey, you just swore my foot was broke. I'm like, oh shit! Oh my god! I'm on the ground. My feet. I got big feet, so I have to wear size 12, right? And I thought I cleared the table. Nah, it hurt. I thought I broke my foot. I was in pain. Look, dude. I got up with the bathroom. Sweat was pouring down my face.
Your daughter's probably like, "What's wrong, Dad? I think I stubbed my toe."
Hey, look. Hey. So reason why, but
I see what you're saying. No, I see what you're saying.
I think that at the end of the day, I think that we have we walk in a lot of non-truths when it comes to our existence, and I think that like you go back to like the story of the underdog is very inspiring. But someone told me a long time ago that it wasn't a minister, it wasn't a pastor. It said, "Hope is a door that's always closed."
I told you this. Remember, we had this conversation. And faith is a door that's always open.
Yes. So you think about it. If a person says, look, if a person says at 16 years old that I'm going to be a bodybuilder and I'm going to be a pro bodybuilder one day. I didn't say specifically what day. I didn't say what year and how old I would be. But I said to myself that I was going to be a pro bodybuilder. I've attained that. You know what I mean? But I'm not an underdog. Because that faith that I had in oneself about my belief in my truth, it was going to be attainable one day, right? So at the end of the day, like you look at somebody like Rudy, yeah, he was the smallest, but was he really an underdog based on whose standards? Because he worked out. He worked
when I look at
football field, he worked harder than everybody on the football field. Someone controlled his existence. Someone controlled the coach. The coach.
If you look at it on paper, he's not an underdog.
No.
So if you were to quantify the characteristics that make a champion, then Rudy is not an underdog. He's an alpha because he has all.
A straight alpha. That's a straight alpha.
He has all the attributes that you need. He just doesn't have the physical capacity yet to do the things until he moved his way through that process. But he did.
Forrest Gump was an alpha.
That's an interesting. I would love to have to write a paper on something like that, because that kind of analysis just makes me, because we don't think of it that way, right? But when you think about it, yeah, man, I like it when he's that movie. I like the movie too when he was in that one part of the movie when he goes to DC and he meets his Jenny there, and then he's talking to her and this dude that she's hanging out with, she's fucking this other dude, right? Some hippie dude, and he's telling him to get the fuck lost. He's straight alpha on that shit, dude. He's straight alpha. He's like, I'm gonna.
Because you know what? At the end of the day, remember I asked you a question a couple weeks ago. I said, "Could you give me books about Jesus?" I think Jesus was a straight gangster, right?
You knew really who he was.
And dude, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. He was.
Did you read it? Did you get
he was a straight thug, bro. He was a straight thug with this shit, man. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. And the reason why I chalked that up is because, like I said, and don't ask me where it came from, because I used him the whole time I was getting ready to compete this year, because I pressed on. I just did my thing. I was like this. I had blinders on. I didn't really pay attention to nobody and nothing, and nobody was bothering me, and nobody was like, nobody was troubling me about what I was trying to attain. And I think that at the end of the day, if you adapt that type of mindset when it comes to anything you got going on, and I just told Cassidy this today about her friends. I said, look, always be the one to have your own voice in the group.
Yeah.
I said, because at the end of the day, that's going to always separate you from the pack.
I think it's interesting. I think you're right. I think it's a good thing I think that's a great thing. I want to talk a little about the masculine and the feminine. I just recently saw, who's the guy that we both follow him on Instagram? He's got, what's his, let me see, his, I wish I could, I think he lives in the Congo somewhere.
Oh, you talking about Shaka Bars?
Yeah, Shaka Bars. Okay, so I don't know what.
Yeah.
So he posted something up, and I didn't listen to all of it, but he always posts these really fascinating stuff, especially when it comes to gender roles and stuff. And there was something today about about the feminine and the masculine, and how, and they were touching on this, but I wanted to sort of highlight it, and how a lot of women come across so masculine, and so what they end up doing is alienating, that no man in his right mind is going to want to deal with that shit. Like boss chicks and all that stuff. That's great if you're a lesbian, or if you don't have any, or if you don't want to have any male like relationships, or if your man is okay with that, which is fine. But I believe that we have roles in this life, gender roles, and I believe that, and we get to decide what those roles are. Like you and I get to, but in general, there are some biological roles that you and I have to obey. If we don't, there's going to be conflict. You and I as men, we are biologically men, and we are set up to protect the feminine. We are supposed to hold sacred space for them so that they feel safe and they can inspire us. That is their job. That is our job. So, but we've taken it a couple steps, I think, in some different directions in our society, because we have most people who are born into our culture have no idea what their fucking role is. So we think we get to kind of decide some of these things. But in general, what we combat in our society are the roles that we've established over the thousands of years that we have been alive on this planet as hominids, and we fight against it. And I'm like, don't fight against it. But if you understand it, then you can massage it and manipulate it to meet the needs of your relationship. If you want a woman to have a certain role in your relationship, I think that's okay, but you both better come together. And the problem that I see is that they're not we don't come together in meaningful ways and talk about those things in our relationships. We just assume things like, this is what you're supposed to do. A man's supposed to do this. A woman's supposed to do this. No, motherfucker. You're supposed to sit down and determine that shit together. But there's some roles biologically that we're set up to do, and you don't have to follow that. But if you want this, and I believe you want the smoothest transition, and you want to make your life easier, then you take that into consideration. Like,
so my question to that is,
does that make sense though? Am I making sense?
It does make sense, but my question to that is that do you think so? I think there was a hijacking of the roles in our country or in the world.
Yes.
Now, I'm not gonna say in this country, because in the world, some places in the world still, have they have the male role and the female role, whatever. But I think that over here, because think about it like this, man. So I'm just going to use the African American experience as
sure.
an example. And the reason why I'm gonna use that is because there was a period in time, I'm gonna say maybe the early '80s, where you had mass incarcerations, mm-hmm. right? A lot of brothers, a lot of sons, a lot of fathers going to jail, leaving a lot of moms single.
That's right.
With stay at home mom, being single.
And that changes things.
Yeah, so you got to realize. I'm gonna read something to you, man. That he posted today.
Who? Oh, that.
That Shaq Bars posted today, and it says, "Hold up, let me find it. Hold up. Where's that? Hold up. I just saved it because I thought it was interesting because what at the end of the day, you look at. There we go. Let me see. Things that I like, posted I like. Here we go. He had posted something today talking about how like certain things have kind of like hijacked that whole role thing because, I just had this conversation with somebody the other day that I said our world is becoming so divided. Because everybody's trying to identify with certain demographics or certain, genders or certain sexual orientations or certain hair colors or certain sizes and shape. I read something today where, they talk about this celebrity's body so bad. They talk about this celebrity's body so bad. And the lady was like, well, damn, can a woman be happy in her own body? It's kind of like everything. So you think about it, man, there's been a hijacking of the narrative because once again, come on, man. We grew up in a time, bro, where your mom and your stepdad slept in the same fucking bed, right?
Right.
But on the Dick Van Dyke show, you showed them sleeping in separate beds, and then the first thing they want to say is, "We didn't know. We didn't want to put that on TV." That's not realistic.
No,
that wasn't real. So once again, there's been a hijacking of truth, and I think that what happens is that when you hijack truth. Think about what we talked about a couple weeks ago. We talked about the critical race theory. We talked about so basically when the truth comes out, we don't want to tell it. And I think that what happens is that you see, man, I saw this chick, man, the other day, man, looked like a whole guy, right? Hair was faded up, clothes, and looked like a little boy. Pretty though.
Okay.
Like a pretty little boy. I mean, I ain't trying to say little boys is pretty, but there was a girl. I could clearly see it was a girl. And she clearly was like a lesbian or something like it. But she like a little guy.
Right.
So you got like a lot of girls out here dressing like little dudes. You got
I got nothing
there's a such thing as independence, but I think there's a such thing as independence to the point to where it becomes toxic.
I mean, hey, look,
become very toxic.
I'm going to be honest here. I totally get that, and I support anybody who wants to, who really feels that this is their gender role that they may not have been born into. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But if you're going to do that, then I would tell you that you better be prepared for the consequences of that. You see what I'm saying? So, like, if a dude comes up to me in a restaurant or out in public, and it's a woman that identifies as a man, so they're a man, and they throw their weight around, I'm going to put them on the floor, and I have an advantage. Okay?
You're a whole guy.
You are a dude. If you want to be treated that way, then expect to be. I'm not saying I would do. I'm not saying this. I wouldn't want to do this, but I'm just saying that this is what you're going to get from other dudes and other people.
I think because I have a friend,
and if you're a dude wanting to be a chick, I'll treat you like a chick.
I have a friend that and I call this particular individual a friend in the sense that they used to be an employee of mine, right? And transgender. Out the gate, when I first met him, I said them, there, them, thus. I was using all the pronouns because I understood. Okay. And I think that because at the end of the day, I think there's once again, dude. I think there's such thing as we have to have certain level of sensitivity when it comes to because I don't know if you saw the Dave Chappelle.
I was just gonna bring that up.
You saw the Dave Chappelle.
I watched that shit twice. I
don't think he said anything out of place.
Nothing. I thought he was being more than gracious.
When he told the last story about his transgender friend that was a comedian.
Right.
He laid it out perfectly right there. The one thing I took out of what he said was he says, "Thank you for just letting me live my life and go through life." It's like you're gonna go through shit in your life. You wake up one morning, you were 50 years old, you fuck around. You know, I know you drive a Tesla right now, Tad, but you say, "Man, hey man, I just want to send you a picture of a new car. I just bought a Ferrari." Okay, man. First thing I'm gonna ask you, like, you all right? You okay? You trying to compensate for some shit? What's going on over there? Because at the end of the day, that we're just going through life.
Yeah,
we're just going through, and so I think what's going on now is that we have to certain level. We have to heighten our sensitivity to people just going through shit. Because once again, our this world we live in is not the same that we grew up in. It's progressing and changing in so many different
and in 20 more years,
gross ass ways.
Well, in 10 to 20 to 30 more years, it'll evolve again and again and again and again and again.
Right. I think that what happens is, remember we had this conversation a couple weeks ago. I said I think we're all conservative in certain respects of our lives.
Probably, we're probably conservative in the areas where we're the most fearful.
Facts, because you don't want shit to change,
right? Something to harm you.
Okay, so when think about it like this: when I'm in the fucking gym and I see these little dudes walking around with a tank top, I go to say, I used to walk around with a string tank top on all the time.
You're like, should I say this?
I used to wear striped Pandex with my whole dick print behind my face. Come on, dude. I mean, real talk. I mean, let's be real.
I never even thought about it like that, but yeah, I guess that's true. I did too, man. I had that whole leotard thing going on in the 90s.
The whole leotard. That was some freaky ass shit we had on. We had fucking.
But I felt stylish, bro.
We had sweatshirts hanging off our shoulders like we were fucking Flashdance.
That's right. I remember wanting some of those fucking things you put on your calves. What are those leg warmers?
No, dude. Remember they used to sell the bunchy socks to guys.
That's right.
The calves look bigger. The bunchy socks. They were whole sock. They were bunched up at the top. So you put those on with your
make your calves look bigger
with your Atomics and your Spandex. And I wore wrestling shoes, so I would always go out. I would always go to the athletic store and buy like wrestling shoes because I was like, I'm not gonna buy no Atomics.
Well, I paid double the price.
Right. So, but once again, we were just going through life. We were just the world was what it was when we were dressing like that. You know what I mean? I mean, so at the end of the day, I think that we just need to have a little bit more heightened sensitivity to people just going through life. It's like I used to, when I first started working with Sally Mae, I had a whole bunch of young employees and I had a whole bunch of young ladies that were, I'm bisexual. And I was like, oh, okay, so you're just playing right now. I said, so be mindful when you're playing because you might be with somebody who is not playing at it. And then all of a sudden they're for real with it. So I said, so at the end of the day, but you know what them 20-some years were going? They were just going through life.
Yeah.
I think that, and I'm going to tell you this, and I've told you this before, I think what happens is this younger generation, like we were young, we can bump our heads and just get a concussion, but we will still be conscious. We still can be coherent of our existence, right? Now, they bump their head, it renders them unconscious only to wake up to an existence that they don't recognize when they wake up. You know what I'm saying? Because they can't make the mistakes and the trials and tribulations that we had. Nowadays, it's all kind of shit going around. You know what I'm saying? There's no such thing as I want to be in one relationship. Now I want to fuck everybody.
There's some interesting statistics that are coming out that are showing that the younger generation, 20s, 30s, and teens are more interested in just having sex and they're less interested in real relationships and stuff. There's just a lot of hookup culture going on. and which I find really interesting because where was that when I was in college? Because I didn't know that shit wasn't around. Like,
but not real talk because
I wouldn't have really been involved with it, but still.
But we were. The thing about we were in college, we were trying to be grown after college. Like college was the next step. Like college, get a job, get a wife.
These people are talking about. So this is the part that I think is amazing to me. In the hookup culture, it's something like this. You want to hook up with someone. It's really for the girls. The girls make the choices, right? The guys are just there. They're gonna, well, fuck, whatever, But the girls, I guess when they decide, okay, I'm gonna hook up with so-and-so, hook up so-and-so, then it's just supposed to be like a hookup, and you're not supposed to catch any feels for nobody, because if you do, that's a bad thing. You don't want to text them afterwards. It's just about hooking up, and that's it. And that's supposed to be the deal. And I've seen people talk about it, and they get disappointed when they start feeling things for people. I'm like, wow, what a fucked up way to look at sex and your sexual activity. Like, I don't know. I don't even want to have sex with somebody that I don't have feels for.
I'm gonna give you an example, man. Since we're both the same age, and we're both single, we both date, whatever. What I find interesting is that when I go to a certain age demographic, I notice my approach toward them is like a whole grown man, right? I'm approaching them like a whole grown man. They don't want to be approached by a whole grown man.
Nope. I'm gonna tell you that I've gotten the same response.
They want you to, because I'm gonna give you an example. Like the chick that I met, she was 34, right? And look, shit brick house, framework out the fucking world, man, dude. Frame was just beautiful, right? And I'm talking to her and having a conversation, and I'm always gonna have intellectual conversation. I just can't. I'm a deep thinker. I can't talk shallow.
I know you can.
Shallow. It's the hardest thing in the fucking world.
Hey, how's the weather?
I was reading the news today, and I was watching how the legislation. I'm talking like this,
right?
And she has no interest in that, right? And it's like, and I noticed that, like, damn. But I'm like, I really want to hook up with her. I really want to get it, but it's like, is it really worth it? Because now. Like I told her, I said, I'm not into playing tag. I'm not gonna chase you around. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. So I want somebody who's gonna be just interested in me as I'm interested in them, and let's proceed.
I think what's interesting is that you and I we're in this age group, and we look a certain way. So we get attention, and because I've gotten the same thing, young girls, 20-somethings, right? And they just want to hook up. I know that's what they want. They just want to hook up. I'm not really like that. I'm a deep thinker like you. You know that. Like, I'm going to have these kinds of conversations. I'm talking about this. And I just talked to somebody just recently, and it was interesting because I'm sitting there, she's chatting with me, and we have some mutual friends in the industry. So I thought that's the reason why she wanted to talk. But apparently, she likes the way I look and all this stuff. And good, okay, great. And then we start talking, and she's telling me about it. She went to Olympia. She slept with some people, and she's like, "Is that bad?" She's like, I think she's trying to turn me on. And I'm like, well, it's only bad if you think it's bad. I'm like, you sleep with who you want to sleep with. She said, do you ever do that kind of stuff? I said, fucking no. Fucking never do that. In the 51 years I've been alive, I don't go places and fuck people I don't know.
Yeah,
I said,
that's never been my cup of tea.
Look, I'm not putting anybody down who does that, but I'm saying that for me, it doesn't work. And she said, well, why? And she said, well, do you like younger girls? Do you like older girls? I said, that's not the point. I said, the point is that I need a deeper connection in order for me to want to give you that physicality that I got. I said, this shit is a gift, bitch. Like, I ain't giving this shit away for cheap.
It's all fact, though, because think about it, man. You can't drink from everybody's glass.
Nope, that's right.
You just can't.
And I'm not a prude. I mean, I like fucking. But it's under my terms. It's always under my terms.
And it should always be there. But the thing is, man, is that like once again, it's been hijacked.
Yes.
It's been hijacked to the point to where these the young folks don't have a control. They don't have a control over.
See, I think this has a lot to do with the signals that are being crossed because we're not clearly defining our roles. I think this is part of the problem.
And it goes back to what you said. It's because think about it like this: if you meet somebody that's 30-something, 40-something years old, whatever. I've always, and this is going to weird you out because the fact that I've never liked defined roles. I've never liked the whole male female thing. I think, and it goes back to what you said because you hit on it right on the nose. You said because then you have to get together and you have to discuss that. You have to have that conversation. It's not that I'm going to come in all chauvinistic and mannish.
No. That's not what I'm talking about.
No. Because look, if I'm not good with the books, then you gonna do the books. If I'm good with all the other shit, then I'm gonna do all the other shit. Let's have that conversation. But I think that what happens is, man, like I don't know how many times you've seen this, because I don't know how many young folks live in your area, but when I pull up to a gas station, I see a young dude sitting in the passenger seat and the girl sitting in the driver's seat, and the girl gets out and pumps the gas. I'm like, what is that?
Well,
you a whole dude in the car just watch, you gonna let your woman pump. So look, one day I was at the gas station. It's gonna mess you up. I was at the gas station.
Well, by the way, before you start your story, with the way I read some of that, whenever I see that scenario, I think motherfucker don't got no job and she make all the money.
Exactly. So I'm at the gas station and I just got through working out, and this was back, I think maybe in June, and I just got through working out. I'm at a Speedway gas station. I step out, and when I got out of the car, I come around and it was a young girl standing there just pumping the gas. I look, I didn't see anybody in the passenger, but I see this dude come out with some skinny jeans on, the pants below his ass, and he got a little tank top on. Looks like he weighs like $1.75. And I'm sitting up there like walk past him, and he was like, damn, bro, shit. And I was like, hey, well, thanks, man, appreciate you, man. I walked in, paid my stuff, and came back out. And he was like talking to her about me when I'm standing. Our cars are right next to each other, so I'm standing there looking at her. And so he gets in the car, steadily on his phone. I said, hey, sweetheart, you want to pump the gas for you? and she was like, nah, I'm almost finished though. Thank you, though. I appreciate it, or whatever. But I was thinking to myself, like if the 20-something was my cup of tea, man. I mean, think about it, man. If you're a 50
By the way, this is my opinion about if you would have done that to me. If I would have saw that, whoever I was with, I'd be like, that's the most alpha move I've ever seen in my life, right there, bro.
I mean, like at the end of the day, people think about it, man. You know, I told a guy one time, I said, you know, a true alpha, by definition, is the one who moves in silence, the one who is just laying back in the cut, just kind of like just
he or she.
It doesn't have to make a move, doesn't have to say too much out loud, doesn't have to do too much. That's a whole alpha. You know why? Because I can pounce when I want to pounce.
Right. Well, and my opinion is that the role of the alpha is to keep order and safety. It's about safety and order. So it's like, and it's not directed at me, man. It's directed at those to which that I am alpha. It's not directed at me. I already got my shit in order. But it's all the minnows, all the betas that follow me, that rely on me to be the alpha. Right? Like my wife or my girlfriend or whoever else. I mean, I'm supposed to play that role. Now, I don't have to play that role. Like, I could decide. I know lots of marriages and relationships where that's not the case. They have different roles that they've decided to play. They've morphed it, and that's the decision they made for themselves, and that's good for them. But in general, I think those are roles that we have to talk about if you want a smooth relationship. Otherwise, you're just going to have conflict about whose responsibilities do what. And this is like, oh, you're supposed to hold my hand, or you're supposed to make them do this. It's like, no. You've got to talk about that shit before you say you're supposed to do shit. I'm not supposed to do anything that I don't feel I'm supposed to do, that I'm not agreed to. But society doesn't make me agree to that. I agree to it when I decide to.
Let me ask you the question, though. If a guy was a stay-at-home dad, could he be an alpha?
Absolutely could.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because once again,
he could be gangster alpha. Now he's controlling the home, man.
Yeah, right. It goes back to the book I'm reading right now. It says that roles have changed. And see, it talks about roles. The chapter I'm on chapter 6, and it talks about roles. The role of an alpha in today's society has changed a lot. Because once again, and that was hijacked. Because remember all the toxic masculinity that we were sold on back in the 80s. You know, Sylvester Stallone dropping down in the Vietnam village and killing 800 people. Okay, that's not really an alpha.
I heard a really great redefinition of toxic masculinity, of what to watch out for. It's really, really good, actually. I thought, and I want to repeat it. I forget who, I saw it somewhere. I think it was a psychologist or something. He was talking about this. It's not the definition of toxic masculinity, but it's definitely an attribute that you want to take into consideration in terms of what it looks like. And he was talking about it's one of the toxic masculine traits that a lot of men tend, and people in general tend to have, because a woman can have this too. These aren't necessarily specific to just men or women, but it's generally considered a masculine trait, is that you, when you hold space, when you're having a conversation with your partner, a man is having a conversation with his partner, and you don't hold space, or just a friend, it could be another man, and you don't hold space for their ideas, even if you disagree. It's not about agreeing or disagreeing. It's about you being able to listen and understand their perspective and emotionally be able to hold space for them. So, as a truth, without judgment. Okay.
Yes, we're done.
Oh, sorry.
What you just came to say goodnight? You going to bed?
See, that shit is important conversation.
What, because the patio's up, you want me to close?
Am I too loud? Shit.
No. What's wrong? You want to say hi to Tad? Come here, say hi to Tad real quick. I know. Come here, just say hi to him real quick.
Hi.
You going to bed? All right, love you, baby.
All right.
I want to read this to you real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead, read it. Go ahead, read.
It says churches control the mothers, school controls the children, and prisons control the fathers.
I saw that.
Hey man. Hey, so when we talk about that. When you go back and talk about roles, and I'm just talking about just from the African American demographic. Those roles were hijacked, and they were replaced. And I'm gonna tell you what they mimic and what they mirror. If you go back to slavery times, the reason why most of the black male slaves were broken so badly and beaten so badly is because the slave masters back in the day always wanted to be the ones that they were dependent on. That I want you to depend on me. I want you to depend. I'm your father. I'm your daddy. I'm your this. So if you look at it, think about it like this. If I incarcerate a lot of African American males, who's to replace the masculinity in their lives?
Oh,
who
good
becomes
question.
the man? Who become? Because I'm gonna give you an example, bro. I'm telling you, man. Like I'm telling you, the Matrix was a real thing, and someone knocked on my door with a little rabbit on her shoulder and told me that I'm gonna meet Neo. Dude, you won't even see me no more, bro. You gonna catch me in the Matrix, right? Check this out. I'm gonna give you an example. Welcome back, Carter.
I watched that show. I watched that show every week.
It was a whole bunch of delinquent kids in his class, and he was the white guy that was the leader.
Mr. Kata.
He was Horseshack. He was the leader.
Yeah.
He was the dad. So if you think about, let me give you another example. If you look at like football coaches, you come out, you hear about the shit about John Gruden. You talking about how he was a leader of men and shit like that. For years, John Gruden has been a head coach, and he's been a loud voice in NFL circles about his football acumen and things like that. He's always pushed in front of as a leader. And a leader of who? What kind of men? African American men. It's always that different. So you think about, that's why I said it's been hijacked, because when you look at women that are being real femininely like toxic and being super, super, super independent, I'm a boss chick and I don't need a man. Dude, that started a long time ago. Yeah. This was a whole experiment. It wasn't like all what we're seeing now is not instantaneous. This has happened over gradual periods of time where I'm constantly going to season and lay these seeds of dependency on either self as a female, being like, I'm gonna get my own shit. I'm gonna raise all 5 of my kids. I don't need you. I don't need a man. I don't need this. I don't need this. And think about everything that's being put out in front of women. You think about honestly. You look at Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion making a WAP song. What's the difference between them making a song about wet ass pussy and guys talking about all the women they fucking rap songs?
Right. There's no difference.
It's no difference. So, but once with the way it's sold, women can't be that way. Women can't talk like that. But then you want women to be independent.
Well, I get that. There's a conflict.
You know what I'm saying? So it's been hijacked, dude. It's been hijacked to where, like, once again, it goes back to what you said. You got to sit down and have that conversation.
I mean, I don't have I think it's completely appropriate for certain women to have to be very strong-willed and very, very sort of masculine in some areas of their life if they need to.
If they thug it out, yeah.
If they got to. I mean, sometimes I remember when I grew up, man. My mom, she was straight thug too, man. She had to have 3 jobs, man.
Your mom was a thug. You said your mom was a whole thug. because she had 2 boys.
That's right. And she didn't have no time to like fuck around.
You know how it is a woman to bring boys?
I know. Dude, I cannot tell you how many times my mother sat my brother and I down growing up telling us, I want to thank you both for being such good kids, because if I had to deal with the same bullshit that my friends have to deal with their sons, she said, I would not be able to do this. She told us that.
Think about that. So think about it like this. You set society up for failure when you do what we've done.
Yeah.
And it's totally on purpose. It's not because it was like, oh my God, we're going to lock a whole bunch of people up on accident. No.
Oops. Sorry.
Think about it. We know now in 2021 that the world drug was manufactured. We know that whole thing was manufactured. That's on purpose.
You're right.
It's a construct, bro. It's a construct. It's a straight construct, and it's created every single fucking day in front of us. Just like this whole pandemic thing. Is coronavirus, is COVID-19 a real thing? Yes, it is. The unfortunate thing, it's been hijacked. Yeah. It's been hijacked with bad intentions.
Yes, because people are using it as a device to get their agenda.
Southwest Airlines. If you don't want to get the vaccine, you're fired. That's not really nice.
That's fucked up.
That's not what a society needs.
Well, no, and you don't treat members of society that way, especially the ones that are contributing. Our health is at our own leisure. We get to make those choices. No one's supposed to make those for us. If I decide to be, I think it's interesting. So, like, I saw Dr. Fauci come on and talk about social responsibility, and I agree with him. Actually, I agree in part to what he said. I just don't agree with how he has extrapolated to this vaccine. But here's what I agree with: that as a productive member of society, as I get to take from society what I get to take because I have my own business, I get to live in the United States, I get to have safety, all these things. I owe a certain degree of responsibility towards society because I'm extracting value from it. But I do that. I participate, I pay my taxes, I do all those things. I'm a productive member. I don't commit crimes. Those are things that I do as my part to. So I agree that there are certain things that we need to do. So if taking a vaccine, I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a second, is part of that responsibility, then what happens to the motherfucking responsibility of people who are out of shape or who are fat or who are in those high-risk groups who have not done so their entire lives and who are making it possible for me to have a mandate that says I got to take a vaccine because their health isn't good enough to withstand it like mine has been, because I've gotten it twice and I've known many people that like me too. So why isn't the responsibility, the onus for health on the people who are suffering, who have the highest chances of suffering? Why isn't it on them as well? It's not. They're putting all the pressure on people like you and me who are healthy, who they're saying it's your responsibility to be vaxxed because because you could spread it. Well,
tell me how that works though. Tell me how
it doesn't.
If I've never had it, I've never tested positive. How am I giving you COVID?
See, they don't. This is the thing.
Where am I getting it from? Am I going to buy it at the store?
Well, I do believe you can be a carrier. It's possible to be a carrier of viruses without showing symptoms.
All kind of shit.
I'm just saying that this is the fear, right? The fear is
they mandate motherfuckers brush their teeth and use mouthwash.
Well, yeah. Well, this is my point. My point is that if we have a social responsibility to do this, then level one responsibility is take care of your health. So that we can be a healthy society.
Though, bro, that's on purpose. Think about it, man.
But taking care of my health is not taking a vaccine. That is not a healthy thing.
How long have we been in this game? We've been in this game for 30 plus years.
37 years.
Dude, you saw the portion sizes going up. We've been bodybuilding since the late 80s.
Yep.
We saw portion size going up. You know why it didn't bother us? Because we was already eating portions based on bodybuilding.
Right.
So we start with so you think about it. It's I'm telling you, I use the word construct because it's the truth. They construct this society to the point to where at this particular juncture, 2020, they knew we got enough out of shape, unhealthy people in this world. If we drop something on them, this means people's gonna die.
Well, I mean, if you go back and look at the CDC numbers from previous years prior to the COVID, you'll see that 55 to 57,000 people every year, like clockwork, died between the months of November and December because of colds and flus. The same motherfuckers who are dying from COVID are in this same group. It's the same people. People say, oh, so many thousands of people have died with COVID. They were dying before, motherfucker, but you didn't give a fuck. Because it wasn't presented to you like that. Now they present the information and they call it COVID. Now, some of it is true. Absolutely. There's no doubt. My ex-wife, her father just recently got COVID a couple months ago and died. And they said he was healthy. She said, oh, he was healthy. See, look what could happen. I'm like, no, motherfucker, that motherfucker smoked for like fucking 50 years. That motherfucker smoked his whole life. He didn't smoke now. He was not doing that now, I don't think. But he smoked many, many years. He was older, and his body just couldn't. And I don't even know the reasons why, like because we don't even really fully know. But whatever the case is, yeah, I mean, he died. So it's absolutely killing people out there. But that has been the case the whole time. Colds and flus have killed people since the beginning of time. It's because some people are healthy enough to withstand it, like you and me, and other people aren't. Most people are. The vast majority of people, this is the truth, the real statistic is this, over 99% of the people out there will survive a cold and flu, even COVID. That's the truth.
That's true.
That's just the truth. That's just raw facts.
In 2019, bro, I when it first came out.
Yeah.
That shit hit me like a fucking brand new album, bro.
Dude.
It's like it's like a fucking brand new #1 hit.
Well, so this is what I thought was straight. So in right as we turned over the clock to 2020, I remember I got sick over that break. I had my daughter and I both got sick. We got COVID, and we didn't know because they weren't talking about it. Some of my clients were talking about it because they went to China and they went to the Wuhan district, and he's like, "Oh, I hope I don't get this flu thing that's going around that I keep hearing about." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He didn't. He came back. He was fine. He went to some kind of like bachelor party or something in China. He's Chinese, so we got it. We got over it in like a week. I mean, I was over it in like a couple of days. It took me out of one workout.
It took me about 10 days.
Yeah. I mean, I remembered it because I was so congested and my daughter's like,
Daddy. Coughing and stuff a couple of days afterwards. Yeah.
I mean, it was bad. And she got over it in less time than I did. Like boom. And we were done. I took one day out from the gym, Friday. I was back in working out my Monday. Because I wasn't going to skip a goddamn workout.
Right. I'm not going to skip a workout.
I was like, not for a cold. I don't give a fuck.
Still walking? Can you still walk?
So, but had I known all what I know about COVID, I probably would have just taken a week off or 2 weeks or whatever it was. But I didn't know that at the time. I just went in, and so. But then I heard about this. I'm like, oh shit! And then I realized, okay, we got that. But it was just this is what normally happens. But if you look at if you look at the numbers every year, I used to see these numbers every year when I was in college. They'd say, oh yeah, so and so many people died this year because of cold and flus. And I'm like, wow, people died from cold and flus. And then when you start looking at the numbers, you're like, yeah.
It's all the unhealthy people that can't handle cold and flu.
It's this, and when you talk to doctors, they'll tell you, it's the same people that die. It's the people that are in nursing homes, the people who are older, who have these immune systems that aren't very good. They're already on their way out. I mean, this was the last straw, right? Like, so, but now we've taken it to another fucking political level, and it's like, anyone can die. No, not anyone can die. It's like, but the statistics show that. When you have a morbidity rate of less than 0.5%, to me that feels like pretty low.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. It's kind of like, think about it, man. It's honestly, man, I'm telling you, man. I'm just gonna always go back to it, man. When I really identified, that if you just do your own thing, man, and you purge forward with your life, man, and really just keep the blinders on, don't really pay attention to all the bullshit, all the news, and all the and being inundated with a whole bunch of negative and a whole bunch of shit like that. I think at the end of the day, man, because think about it, man, fear is real.
Well, yeah, especially our government and our media has done a fucking stellar job of preaching a lot of fear.
Awesome. They should get Emmys for this.
They should get a goddamn Oscar for producing as much. Because I called 2020 the year of fear. Because that's all I heard.
That's all it was.
That's all it was, man. Fear. My brother is guilty. My own twin brother, who I adore in this life, and who I'm deeply connected with, but we disagree on many things, and our COVID response is one of them. And it's because he was very fearful, but he was fearful for good reasons, because his wife she's not as robust. When she gets a cold, it takes her 2 to 3 weeks to get over. When he and I get one, it takes us 12 to 16 hours to get over. And he was afraid that it would cause serious health problems for her because it could cause that for some people. Although I don't think that would have happened, but I'm not married to her, and I don't have to live with the fact that if she died, I know how devastating it would be for my brother. So I say, okay, if I gave him his peace and I gave him his space to do.
Everybody's experience different.
That's right.
Experience different.
But I did want to make it clear to him that you guys are responding to fear. I made it clear.
It's real, dude. Hey, dude, look, man. If Jason rolled up on us right now, right, or Michael Myers.
Jason's more frightening to me than Michael Myers.
Jason Voorhees. Jason Voorhees on Friday 13th came in his little ski mask and his little. First of all, I'm like, where you work, man? I'm gonna look at you like, where you work, bro? You work? What's going on?
I don't even think I would talk to that motherfucker with his mask on and shit. Like, fuck you, man.
Talk, though. Think about it, man. Think about it. We were kids.
Oh, that was my favorite too. Friday 13th movies.
Hey man, but you see the scene now, it's all hokey and goofy and stuff. Like
when I was a kid, though, that was like real shit.
He's standing right there in front of you. You just gonna open up the door and look at him all crazy. I'm just like real tough, man. So if you think about it, I was reading something, man, like, and I'm just comparing the two, right? Halloween, this new Halloween that's out, got a whole bunch of backlash because of all the mass shootings and shit like that.
Why? What's wrong? What happened?
The mass murders and stuff like that that's been going on. The imagery of that. They got backlash because of the imagery, right?
I think it's funny that we do this in our culture. By the way,
I was about to say, because you're about to say the same shit. It's interesting how we do that.
Yeah, like it's the video game's fault, or the
society's far more gross and far more. Look, dude. If you was to like go to the FBI and ask for the most heinous shit that's going on in our society right now,
I don't want to hear that shit.
We got like five active serial killers in California right now. Yeah, one dude killed like 20 women, and yeah, he had them all chopped up in his basement. They were all laying.
Oh,
over.
fuck!
I mean, you would hear the most horrific shit in the world, right? But then all of a sudden they want to come out. Well, we don't want to make this movie because we think that's going to give the sin out the wrong. Our society's more scary than the movies we fucking make, bro. and so you give me a psychological thriller that's more fearful than a gore movie. Yeah. Like somebody chopping up somebody. That's not. I'm not even.
Well, that's why I think today I like movies that are more like Alfred Hitchcock kind of movies that are more based on story and drama and character development. Whereas,
that's why Jordan Peele's movies like Get Out, Antebellum.
I gotta see that. Somebody said it's funny as fuck. Get Out.
But real talk though, that's just more fearful than somebody chopping up some bodies. Because you think about it, man. If you watch Get Out, this whole brother meets this chick. She's white, goes to her family's crib, and then they doing lobotomies, taking people's brains and put them in white people's bodies and shit like that, whatever. Hey man, Jordan Peele makes the most realistic horror movies.
He's a good writer. He's a good writer, man.
Because shit he's writing about is real life shit. Like, look, dude. Look, man, I know I went to school with some guys, man, that I know back in the day, they grew up in the same hood I grew up in, man. You meet the guys now, you would think they was a whole white dude. You're like, man, hello? Hey, you were like, hey, Darrick, how you doing? Hey, you doing great? Hey, fantastic, brother. Yes, sir. I'm like, hello? Different language? Like, what's going on? But it's like, so our society just is like the fear thing that happened last year. The fear of war, the fear of terrorism, the fear of COVID, the fear of your kid getting snatched up, the fear of this. Everything is rooted in fear, dude, and it's like so sad. I found something funny, man. Prince William came out and said we need to stop having races to space and have a race to fix the planet. I agree with you. Jeff Bezos, I know you want to go to Mars. I know you want to live on Mars. So
well, no. I mean, so
you want a ticket?
Well, I'll be honest. I think that our priority should be here on this planet.
We should. Man, you got to be a whole fucking billionaire, dude. You can drop $200 million.
But we need. But we also. I think you're correct. We need to work on our planet. But in order to do that, it's my belief that you have to have inspired individuals, and this inspires people, man. It inspires people because it's the next bastion. It's like the ocean. We still haven't discovered all that shit. We should be doing that too.
But so that's what I'm saying though, bro. Look,
we need to be inspired, and that's what I think space does.
There was an artist, man, that painted a picture, And if you looked at the picture, I thought I was looking at like the universe. No, it was a picture of the ocean.
Oh, cool.
It was actually a picture of the ocean. It wasn't even it was like it mirrored. It was the same thing, right? So remember, we've only discovered what 5% of the ocean.
Something like that, yeah. There's a ton of it.
That's scary to me. That's scary.
I think it's cool. But yeah, there's all kinds of sea creatures and shit that we don't even know about.
You want some guys young? What's the things that from what's the little characters from Pacific Rim? What are those? The Kaijins?
Oh, I don't.
The monsters.
Yeah. They look like fucking cockroaches to me.
Your ass would want to see one.
Yeah, I want to see one.
Yeah, see, I'm good, bro.
Fuck you guys. You guys stay where you're at.
We don't need no more prop, man. Godzilla pulled up on us right now. You know, everybody be like, look.
Well, see,
look to everybody like this shit.
Fuck this.
What we gonna do with that, man? What we gonna do with Godzilla?
Well, I agree, and I agree that we should work on our planet. I agree. I just think that space, we need people like this who are doing this because we need to be inspired, and there's value to inspiration.
But they defunded NASA, bro. We had a whole government.
That's okay. That's why it's privatized. I said that's why we privatized it, like SpaceX and.
But that makes it even scarier because you created a whole bunch of James Bond villains.
That's okay to me. Innovation will move faster. You need to control it because innovation moves faster. But
okay, you remember the movie Elysium?
Yes.
Okay, that's where we're heading towards.
I hope not.
Nah, bro, not realistic.
Why do you say that?
Because think about it. Think about it. Last year alone, we created 534 new billionaires.
Okay.
In a
damn, I didn't know that. Shit. That's a lot
of billionaires, right? That's a lot of billionaires.
That's a whole room of rich motherfuckers that could change the world.
And I think we're leading in a direction toward like an Elysium because I think that I'm not saying they're going to abandon Earth, but man, we have so many problems that we can solve so quickly here. Like everybody. But
you know, most people don't realize this, that NASA, in all the years NASA was through the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, NASA just doing the space shuttle program, which was a fucking horrible program, by the way. It's too expensive. But what came out of that, what most people don't realize, and this is the value of this these space programs, is all of this technology that we fucking use today in our normal society that's helped us. Technology in internet technology, technology in robotics, technology.
Why don't we have a solar phone, man? Why don't we have a solar cell?
It's the whole reason why we can do we do have that technology.
I know, because there's a whole bunch of soldiers that told me they have phones they can last like 5 weeks in the desert.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of stuff that aren't available to us yet. Everything gets militarized first. All the cool technology is militarized first, and
it's
then
all militarized first. like, dude, that's what I'm saying though. That's what I'm saying. We're going toward Elysium. If you know you have technology that can cure our ills, right? Then create those things. Don't monetize.
Well, that's because I agree.
Somebody got to get rich. Look, dude, when the dude told me this, dude was in the Marines. He was in the first Desert Storm back in the early 90s. He said, dude, we have phones that we can charge when we leave base and be in the desert for a month, and they still work. Wow. He said it's sad because they see that technology you would want to monetize. How can we get rich off this? And it's like we always look for greed more so than assistance. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I agree with you, dude. Look, you the whole dude of Prometheus. Prometheus is probably one of my favorite movies, and I think it was Ridley Scott's worst movie. I think it was his worst movie because it still didn't give an origin of the aliens and the predators. It showed the birth at the end, but I don't think that was a good origin story.
I think they were trying. I think I could be wrong about this, but I think they were because I like that movie too. But I thought the story was a little screwy too. Because I think what they really they were trying to show in that story, I could be wrong, is the origin of human species.
That's how it started, but it showed the origin
of the aliens.
Predator.
Yeah, the predator.
It showed the order of.
I think they were aliens. So were they trying to relate us to them? Is that what they were trying to do?
Yeah, they were trying. Because remember at the very beginning, because I thought that was the dude's physique, man.
Dude, you see how big he was?
Think if a bodybuilder had all that.
Dude,
physique,
he was like 7 or 8 feet tall.
he would never lose the Olympia. He would win every year he stepped on stage.
You see, he was all lean and fucking just
lean. Everything was full. Tracks were right to his ears.
And then I didn't understand why he drank that thing, and then it killed him.
Because what happens is that they were trying to show that as that was the DNA that was in that. That's how the DNA.
That's how it spread.
We were creating a hot soup basically.
Yeah.
We were creating a hot soup, right? So if you say that was the origin. So I was cool there, but at the very end when they showed the little blob thing land on top of the whole muscular dude, and then all of a sudden a whole alien popped out. That was the origin story.
Yeah, that was kind of weak.
All right, but here's my take on what you just said about we need guys that are innovative. I agree. But the thing is, man, is that if I'm not from that fucking planet, I'm not gonna walk around like I've been there before, right? We going into space and verging out to space, like the whole space station shit. I think they're doing other shit there. They're not just up there chilling. They're doing experiments and doing some crazy shit, right? But is it for the betterment of man though?
Well, it's supposed to be.
But we don't know. We don't know. I think I agree with you about innovation, but I'm more about innovating like the company what was the guy who created the shoes that he was letting everybody put their own designs on the shoes, so every shoe sold he was giving a brand new a pair of shoes to like a third world country.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I can't remember. I think it was called Soul SOLE.
Okay. Company,
but that's innovation to me. That's you can be innovation not based on technology, but about you can be innovative in humanity.
Right. I agree. I agree 100%. I agree. I think
innovation is not always technology. Innovation can be humanity. Well, I think if you're doing stuff, Jeff Bezos is an evil villain from buying movie, bro.
Well, you're gonna have to change. You just hit the nail on the head. You're gonna have to change the ethic, the business ethic. And I got a degree in this, which is ethics. Yeah, you're gonna have to change the way in which that we look at our goals in business. Otherwise, right now it's just profitability, and so a lot of bad things happen in the name of business because in the name of profit, people, you name it, places get destroyed. All kinds of egregious things happen in our culture. So we have to fundamentally change what we see as success in this life. If the longer we see success as money, as items, as collecting, as ownership. All those kinds of property, all that shit is gonna fucking be our downfall because property ownership, all that stuff, we don't own anything, man. I still find it hard to believe that I know I own my home, I know I own things, but really, I don't really own it. That's just I don't own shit, man. If I own it, I could take it with me when I die. The only thing
or you can give your property, your land to your daughter.
Well, even that type of ownership is bestowed upon me in trust by my government. If my government didn't back it, trust me, they could take that shit like that. They could take it right now like that if they wanted. They could
Don't pay your taxes. Don't pay your property taxes.
Exactly. I remember they thought the IRS thought I owed them money several years back, and they just fucking took $20,000 right out of my goddamn bank account because they thought they should. They didn't ask me.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, once again, bro, you know,
they paid me back.
Dr. Fauci on TV talk about certain freedoms you just can't have based on for the better good of society. When he said that out loud, I was like, damn, bro, you sound like a whole evil villain, bro. You sound like a whole.
You're trying to convince me. You're trying to convince me to let go of some of my liberties so that other people can feel better about themselves.
That to me, that sounds like a whole evil.
That's right. To me,
I'm sorry, bro. Like,
no, I agree with you. That shit. Fucking, I heard him say this shit, and I'm like, if I was standing next to you, man, I'd say, man, you deserve a whole slap in the face.
Look, do me a favor when we get off the cast tonight. Watch Elysium again, man.
I think I will.
Jodie Foster's character actually mirrors a lot of characteristics of a lot of people we see in society. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Fauci, Biden. She exhibits every characteristic of a leader society.
So I want you to do a favor for me for the next episode. Now, next week I'm going to have Aaron Banks on. He got second at Olympia at the men's physique.
Okay.
He's a cool ass dude, man. Real cool dude. We'll talk to him. But I want you to do a poem about this topic. Can you do that?
About what? Tell me.
Let's
specifics.
I want you to come up with a poem on, because you got good shit with words. Let's see, use words like this. These are just words to move you to think about what
I'm listening.
Okay, liberty, social responsibility, freedoms, and well-being. Because these are our goals, right? Our goals are to I mean, it says in our Constitution, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
I'm going to read something to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to read something to you.
Go ahead. Uh-oh.
It says, "Why you lying, King? I grew up without a daddy. 2 years ago, my father died. No tears cried. Now my life is being denied the creature comforts of a strong daddy presence, essence of a black boy's existence mixed with mother's milk. Silk is not the cloth we all are cut from. So go run tell that to the puppet masters of this cultural construct. Duck when I really mean watch your head, King. You have to go take the crown. And don't drown in ready to drink misery that America served up like really. Fam, what the fuck, Duck King, knowing my meaning, go pour your own sip of this so-called American dream, and I mean that shit."
Who wrote that?
I did.
Oh, you did? Oh, shit. I like it.
Yeah, so it was funny that you said that, because when I get inspired, because what I heard what's the dad's name in Lion King?
Mustafa.
So someone said that in a rap song, and I said Lion King, and I said Lion King, Cotton, you're Lion King, because when you think about it, like if you go up to like New York, you've been up to New York,
I like that. Yeah.
A lot of brothers in New York, when they like, "What's up, King?" Yeah, a lot of brothers refer to each other as kings. Well, we're kings. We got robbed of our crowns based on being slaves in America, right?
Right.
So I was like, Lion King, Lion King. You're Lion King. You're lying.
I like it.
Because once again, that's why I said, because at the end of the day, we get poured this elixir of an American dream, and we get sold on all, like we talked about earlier in the podcast about hope. You get sold this story. We get sold the underdog story.
Okay.
We get sold.
So do this then. Sell me the story that we should be telling people. Give me a poem about that. I want to hear the story that we should be telling people, because I want to tell my daughter that story. I want to make sure that I treat other people with that story in mind.
Okay, I got you. You might have. So you get a text, because what happens is, man, the way I write. Anything inspires me. If I hear a word, if I hear a phrase, right? I wrote a poem one time where somebody said "shh." So I started like that. I was like, "Shh." I said, "Shh." Isn't it funny? So you like, "Shh, isn't shit funny?" You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like I get inspired. So I might be sitting here thinking about what you just said. So if I had to paint a picture of a utopic America, I'm
not talking about utopia. I'm talking about
no. Well,
I'm talking about
how it should be.
Well, yeah, so we talk about inspiration. We've been talking about this today about what we should be doing, how we should be directing ourselves. Okay, and so there's a message there. There's a message somewhere that we got to tell.
Something gonna come.
Okay.
If you get a text tonight,
all right,
it come out. Like I said, it just depends, man. Because
I want you to.
Think about it like this though, man. Like I'm really like after I did the show in Pittsburgh, man, I really came home thinking I really want to write a children's book.
I want to do children's stories. Let's do them.
I really want to write a children's, because I think because it's a guy that I went to high school with named Bill Loman. His name was Will Loman, right? And he was a lineman on the football team. And like I said, when I was in high school, I was only like 5'8". Like, and I wrestled and stuff. I was like 5'8", 175, right? That's not a small person. I wasn't small. I wasn't skinny or anything like that. But I wasn't as big as I am now. So it's like he's always, man, you should tell your story. And I was like, damn, tell my story. What's my story? It's nothing, monumental. I've done some monumental things like American Gladiator.
But I think your story is different, though. Your story doesn't have nothing to do with what you've been doing. Your story has to do with how you see things. Because you have a very unique perspective that I've not come across except for in my own life, my own self, but I've spent a lot of time and degrees looking at this stuff. So I would say the story that you have to say, this is just me as your friend, knowing you for about over a decade. I'd say the real story that I think is interesting about you, doesn't really have much to do with your history. It has more to do with your history of thought.
Yeah.
And much of it is very profound, and much of it, I think there's an audience that needs to hear it because they're in the same position that you were in, but you've been able to see past the illusions. You've been able to see beyond the falsehoods and be able to conduct yourself in a way that makes you feel that you're doing your part in your own life the way you want to. And
right.
And I think everyone needs that, man. No matter what color, no matter who you are, no matter what gender you decide, I'm for everybody in this world. But I think a lot of people need to hear some other message. They need to hear something else, and it's a thought process. It's a way that we view the world. What I was gonna say, and I'll just finish it about toxic masculinity because it kind of dovetails into this. It has to do with being able to. A person with toxic masculinity does not hold space in conversation for too many people. They only hold it for themselves. They're only interested in speaking, only interested in telling, and not interested in listening. And so, one of the most profound things you could ever do in this life is shut the fuck up and listen, right? Like, this is one of the most profound things you can do. You always get two responses from people when you do deep listening. They feel, the other person feels heard, and so that instantly connects you with another person. You can't be, and secondly, they feel like you're, even if you don't agree, they feel like you're working together.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't have to agree. This is what we don't understand. And I really believe this to be true in our society today, that we have a lot of fucking pussies out there who just can't take a difference of opinions.
No,
they're just so...
Very, very, very brittle spirits, man.
I love this. And when first time I heard Dave Chappelle use that frame, I'm like, I'm repeating this shit because you...
I repeat that shit all the time.
I'm like, quit being so goddamn brittle.
Man, you hit the nail on the head, man. When it comes to toxic masculinity, man, it's like, once again, like, if we didn't have TV, and we didn't have. Oh, let me tell you about this. I was telling somebody this the other day, man. I was reading. I read an essay years ago, and the guy wrote a story about. He said the day I found out my pawpaw was racist.
Oh,
right. And it's interesting because he got older and realized it. He never really saw it growing up.
Oh,
right. He never saw it.
He wasn't aware.
Right. Now, but here's the crazy thing is that when he got to the point when he realized his grandfather was racist, he asked him. He said, because I didn't want your dad and your aunts and for you guys to grow up without having a fighting chance in life. And I was like, that's so fucking profound to even have a true sense of self and understand generation and how you were raised and how you couldn't get that ideology and that belief system out of your head and how you viewed things, but he didn't want to spew that on them. He didn't want to corrupt and ruin them. He said this out loud to his grandson. I was like, damn. So imagine if we didn't have TV, imagine we didn't have social media, imagine if we didn't have examples of what a true man was, but we only had true examples, people that were in front of us, people that was around us, people that mentored us and talked to us and raised us and reared us and whatever, right? Those are only examples you had. What kind of world will we have?
Wow. A different one, probably.
You see what I'm saying? Because think about it, we grew up in a time when the 80s when fucking Rambo and Terminator and everybody was just going around killing everybody, and that was the true sign you have to have.
And there's a compounding effect also in our culture around that time. We had the proliferation of dual income families.
Yep.
Or an increased single parent families. So either one does the same. It does the same thing. Either one of those situations do the same thing to the children. They force the children to raise themselves with culture. Culture raises them.
Yes, man. That's what I said. It got hijacked.
It got hijacked. That's right. So but luckily, like in my world, I think this is probably one of the reasons why I'm different. My world, my mother didn't allow culture to hijack because she was very, very, very insistent. Every year, bro, every year from the time I can remember, my mother there was some theme to the year, and it was a lesson. One year it was responsibility. One year it was guilt by association. One year, I mean, you name it. Every year of my childhood, going through grade school all the way until I hit high school, every year she focused on one topic and she gave me examples, and I had to prove it, and I had to work it all year. So that's why I am the way that I am. Because my mother was not going to sit here and raise children that she would have to fight growing up. You know, like she's like, I can't do this. I'm not going to do that because she was a single mother. You know, a single parent, and she couldn't afford to like even leave work for an afternoon to pick us up because we got in a fight at school. I remember having this conversation because I'm like, Mom, I remember coming home one day, some kids were picking on me. Mom, I want to kick their ass. I'm like, I want to kick their ass. I'm like, this motherfucker. She said, well, what happened? I said, well, this is what this dude said. He said this, this, and this. And I'm like, she said, well, is that true? And I said, no, it's not true. He's an asshole. I'm like, and she's like, well, if it's not true, then why do you care? And I'm like, shit. She's like, does it matter? And I'm like, yeah, well,
you're more gangster not. You're more gangster not caring about it than you are.
So she said, look, Dad, if you are going to sit here and care about everybody's opinion about you, you're going to be caring your whole life. There's over 7 billion people on this, trillion people on this planet, wherever there's. You're going to care about them all? About all their opinions?
I tell the little person all the time, man.
You can't care.
I said, you think? I said, come on. I said, baby, now think about it. I said, you think Daddy's ever cared? I've always been a bodybuilder. I've always been stared, pointed at, and whispered around, and hated on and disliked, and people give me the side eye, and people got shit to say. You take drugs. I can't. I said it was a period of time where I cared about all those things, but eventually you got to let this shit go and you got to keep doing because that'll stall you. I said, I'm about to give you this real quick. What's ruined our society is excess and access.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
Because think about it. We grew up in a house. We only had one TV in the house.
Yeah, had to wheel that shit around the house.
Now how many TVs do people have at home?
I'm a one-man operation and I got 3 TVs.
Dude. I live here. I got fucking 3 big screens.
Right. Just depends on what room I want to watch my TV in.
Excess and access has corrupted us. Excess and access has ruined us.
And
because they think about it, when we were analog, our fashion was based on ourselves.
Right.
It wasn't based on what we saw on TV and what we saw in videos. So once again, this psychological construct that was created, it's like a fucking psychological experiment.
Yeah, it
is.
Like,
listen, if I say this, let's see. Think about it. Why? I said, if it wasn't a psychological experiment, I told a young person this. If it wasn't a psychological experiment, then why does Facebook have likes, hearts, hugs, kisses, and shit like that? That's psychological.
Well, actually, I've heard they're coming out with a Facebook, I think Instagram. They're trying to come up with the children's version.
Once again, it's going to be hijacked because you know who controls it? Adults.
Right.
Adults control shit. I used to tell Cassie this all the time when she was itty bitty. I said, look, baby, I said, don't put too much into what you're looking at right now. I said the reason being is because adults control it.
Yeah.
There's always
you're being shown something.
Shit.
Just remember.
Think about it, man. If you look at Tom and Jerry, we grew up on Tom and Jerry. Tom and Jerry was racist as hell.
Yeah, man. Well, I was partial to the Roadrunner. I always thought that the coyote should have ate that motherfucker. That coyote should have ate that motherfucker years ago.
That was violent, though.
Real violent. He blew him up. He fucking
blew him up. Dropped anvils on his head from cliffs. They jumping off cliffs and jumping.
Well,
and
I always.
when guns and rockets and shit on each other. What the hell?
Well, when I was a kid, I always thought, one, where's the Acme store? Because he can get fucking anything in that place. And two, I thought, he hasn't given up yet.
And I'm thinking to myself, if first of all, look at this, man. So the Road Runner, right? And Wile E. Coyote. Wasn't nothing else to eat?
No, it's a desert. He's in a desert. and he's chasing a coyote.
Partner, I'm confused, but you ain't never gonna catch him. He's a whole road runner.
I always thought you're spending way too much energy to catch this animal that you haven't caught yet.
But as an adult, can you look at the metaphor or the meaning behind? Hey man, look at old cartoons. What's the meaning behind a coyote chasing a road runner? First of all, what the fuck is a road runner?
It's a bird.
What is a road runner, man? Is it real?
Yeah, it's a real. Road runners are real. Yeah.
It's okay. So I don't know. See, I don't know.
They live. They have them here and in Nevada, a couple states in the desert. They're mainly desert birds.
Are they really fast? Can they fly?
Yeah, and they'll run across your fence like fucking lightning.
Okay,
like that,
okay. So here's my thing though. So we look at Tom and Jerry. We look at Bugs Bunny. We look at all these cartoons, and you think about this. How I let you know that this whole construct has all been hijacked, and there's an agenda behind it. Because if you really think about it, what are the most influential shows that we can talk about? You had Sesame Street, you had the Electric Company, back in the day, saying the ABCs and counting and rhyming and stuff like that. That's the only thing should be on TV. Anything else, think about Roadrunner, Tom and Jerry, those really weren't meant for kids.
Well, they were made for kids, but there was definitely needed. Well, we always I think my first cartoon I remember really loving was Popeye. I like the fact that he can just eat the spinach, he get all buff, and
first of all,
and he can whoop some ass.
He had a whole birth defect, bro.
His fork.
Come on, bro. Hey, what you doing with your hands? Like, what you doing? Hey, what you doing, bro? And then you like whole dudes, man. Olive Oil was about 6'5", looked like a whole dude.
And Blue Toe was always after her ass. I probably would have given her Blue Toe. She was ugly, I thought.
What was his name? Was it Brutus?
Brutus, Blue Toe. There was a couple names.
Okay. He was a whole dude, man. He was like,
Popeye
was 5'2", and with big old deformities on his end of his arms.
And
really?
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, I think we're going to end the podcast today. That's a good one, man. I did like Popeye as growing up as a kid. By the way, interesting fact about Popeye. This is the reason why Popeye was made. During the war effort in the United States, we were running short on vegetables and certain vegetables and foods. We were rationing things, right? You had to get coupons to get chocolate, to get gas, to get vegetables. So, because a lot of it was being exported to the soldiers for the war effort, right? So, but what we had a lot of was spinach, canned spinach. But nobody wanted to eat it because it tastes like ass. Wow. So they made a cartoon that would motivate the children to eat spinach because it was really one of the few things that we had. That's to eat.
The first propagandized thing to ever exist.
Has nothing to do with anything but the fact that this is what we had available. So you got to make these kids want to eat this shit because it's all we got.
That's straight propaganda.
So, big brother, baby, big brother. All right, man. Well, hey, good one. Excellent. Next week, I think we'll have Aaron Banks on the show. He's the second We'll grill him a little bit. He's a nice dude. All right, man. Well, you have a good weekend, man. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And we are out.